Previously on You Can Beat Video Games. In part 1 of this video, we rescued Princess Zelda from the castle dungeon, only to see her captured again. We sold a fish, caught a bee, then we collected the 3 pendants and pulled the Master Sword from the stone. We showed the evil wizard Aghanim that his magic was no match for our bug-catching net, but in his defeat the wizard sucked us into the Dark World, where our true quest begins. The descendants of the 7 wise men have been trapped in crystals and locked away in the Dark World's dungeons. To break the seal on Ganon's tower, we'll need all 7 of them, and we'll find the first in the Dark Palace. Let's get started. As the Dark Palace opens up, there's 3 paths we can choose. If we go through the middle, we'll hit a locked door, and we can find a key to open it on the left or the right side. We're going to be going through the right path later, so we're going to take the left door first, and the key is easily found by lifting up the skull in the lower left corner, which reveals a switch. The skulls are what the pots are now that we're in the Dark World, because the Dark World is spooky. Lifting up a skull in the upper left corner of that room will reveal a switch that will take us back to this room, although you could just use the magic mirror if you wanted to get back to the beginning quickly. We'll walk through this door using our key, and in this room we'll encounter some new enemies. Those turtles are known as terror pins, and we won't be able to kill them yet. We want to push this block off the side and then take this path up here, where we can find another easy key. The other enemy that looks like a blue jellyfish is called a Bari, and if you strike that guy with your sword while it's electrified, you will take damage, sort of like when you attack a buzz blob. In this room you'll notice that you can drop down below because it's not all black underneath, and if we use a bomb we can blow up a piece of the path, and that will drop us down onto this ledge, where we can use our key to head back up to the first floor, and inside this treasure chest, we'll find the big key. With the big key in hand, you can drop down to the right, and that will take us to the lower part of this room that we dropped to the upper ledge in before. When you pick up that skull, it will reveal a treasure chest that contains a key, and we still can't kill those terror pins, so once you have the key, head through this teleporter, and this room is where you would come down to if you took the right path at the very beginning of the palace. Through that teleporter tile, we'll come into this room where we can speak with Zelda through one of those wall tiles. I don't know why Zelda needs to suddenly use the telepathic intercom system. She used to be able to contact us telepathically without it. Use your dash boots to break open the wall, and in here we meet the Link to the Past version of Goriyas. If you get right in front of that red one, it'll spit a fireball at you, but these guys will mimic your movements. So whenever you move left, they'll move right. Essentially, they move backwards in whatever way you move, so you can use that to your advantage to set up shots with your arrows. They don't really look a whole lot like the Goriyas from the original game that throw the boomerangs at you. If you didn't tell me that's what it was, I would not know it was a Goriya. In here, we'll finally find the map, so we can take a look at that if we want to see where we are. And in here, if we use a bomb on the right side, we can find a fairy fountain. So if you're getting low on health, this is a great time to fill up. And if you have some empty bottles, you can even use your bug net to catch a fairy. At this point in the game, medicine is a lot better than a fairy in a bottle, but if you don't happen to have medicine or if you've used some recently, the fairies in the bottle at least are free. On the left side, you need to blow open the wall so that you can get another key, and once you have it, we can use the magic mirror to return to the dungeon entrance. With 2 small keys and the big key, we are ready to get the treasure of the dungeon, the hammer, which is located in the upper left corner. We're going to take the right path here, head up through this room. You may think that you can't make this jump, but because we're jumping from a higher platform to a lower one, you can actually clear a jump that's 2 spaces large. We'll use our first key, and then you want to throw a skull at this Helmasaur to kill it, and then you want to exit the room and re-enter. That way that enemy will not mess with you when you're trying to cross this breaking bridge. You don't want to get knocked down by it. There's a second one at the end of the bridge, so save your skull for it. And if you go through the right door, we can try to avoid some of these terror pin enemies and grab the compass. I don't actually recommend coming down into this room. You'll be able to grab some rupees, but that's all that's here. Instead, what you should do is head over to the left where you'll be able to get the hammer, but if you insist on getting those rupees, you can come up here, and this is probably a room that you want to go to anyway because this is an awesome treasure room that also includes a key. We can use our magic powder on this anti-fairy that's in here, and it will turn into a regular fairy, and we can get a little bit of health back that way. And down here is where we'll find the key. The treasure chest on the other side only has a single arrow in it. Thanks, I guess. But there is another anti-fairy on the other side if you need some more health. And then when we take the path upwards, it just leads back to the room with all those terror pins. And then we can head over here to the upper left corner, which is a dark room, but this one leads to the hammer. We haven't used the Quake magic yet, and if we use it against these Kodongo enemies, they're dinosaurs that spit fire, it will transform them into these mostly harmless slime creatures, which the game sees as having 0 hit points, so pretty much anything that hits them will kill them. Not bad. We are about to get the hammer though, and once we have the hammer, we'll be able to smash frozen enemies, so we're probably going to get more mileage out of the ether spell. In the lower right corner, we'll be able to pick up a key, don't forget to grab that. And up here, we'll be able to use a bomb on the wall, which will lead us to that hammer. You may remember seeing it on the side as we crossed the room with the breaking bridge. And once you have the magic hammer, we can use our magic mirror to return to the dungeon's entrance. Obviously, we need the hammer so that we can pound in those posts that are blocking our way in a number of areas. But the hammer is actually a pretty good weapon. It deals the same type of damage as a level 3 sword, and against special enemies like these terror pins, it flips them over and makes them vulnerable. So it deals the same amount of damage that our level 2 sword deals whenever it's charged up, but the hammer does have pretty weak range and it's kind of slow to use. So while it is a pretty good damage weapon, it's not always the best choice for fighting. We're going to come down here, and we want to hit that switch across the way. We can use our boomerang to do that, or you could throw one of those skulls at it, whatever you want. You should probably take care of those hard-shelled beetles first. They might knock you into the pit, and you'll take a little bit of damage, and it's just kind of annoying. Once you're able to get through on the right side, we can find a whole bunch of hearts over here on the left, and on the right there's some bombs, but there's also a switch. Now the switch needs something to be pressing on it so that it will stay depressed. So that's why we have this statue. Later on in the game we'll get the Cane of Samaria, which will be able to create a block for us, and we can use that to depress switches like those. But for now we'll need to use that statue. Once again, we're going to use our arrows to take out the Gorias. You want to shoot it and then kind of move the red Goria into the path of the arrow so that he gets hit. But you don't want to be directly facing that guy or he'll shoot a fireball at you. Over here, if we shoot an arrow into this conspicuous looking statue at the dead end, a secret passage will open up that leads deeper into the dungeon. It also takes quite some time to animate. They probably could have sped that up a bit. Down here in the depths of the dungeon, we'll encounter whack-a-moles? Yeah, we'll need the hammer to get through those whack-a-moles, but I have no idea what kind of sick dungeon designer is adding whack-a-moles as some kind of barrier. Like, you couldn't have picked anything else? Whack-a-moles? A little on the nose for something that we need to use the hammer on? Well, in any case, we're going to head through this way and go down through this door. In this room, there are a whole bunch of terror pins that we need to kill. Now, you can damage them after they're flipped over with the hammer, but if you're not careful, you may end up flipping them back onto their normal side. So I recommend just using the hammer to flip them onto their back and then finish them off with the Master Sword. In here you need to push a block in the upper right side and that will let you into the tile. And this path leads to the boss. Once again, you just want to flip over the terror pins with the hammer and then finish them off using your sword. Although the sword deals less damage, it does not risk flipping them back to the other side. And here's our first Dark World boss, the Helmasaur King. It seems pretty obvious that you need to use the hammer to chip away the protective mask, but did you know you can also use bombs? Hitting the mask with the hammer only deals 1 damage, and bombs actually deal 4, but it's a lot harder to line up bombs and a little bit easier to just chip away with the hammer, so I do recommend using the hammer. Once the mask is gone though, the hammer will deal full damage and actually be able to hit it for 8 points, but it's still a lot easier to hit this guy with arrows. Just line up in front of its weak point and rapidly shoot the arrows, and the Helmasaur King won't last more than a few seconds. With such an obvious vulnerable spot on its face, I can see why the Helmasaur King would want to wear that big protective mask. In any case, once he's done exploding, we'll be able to grab another heart container, and we'll also get the first of our 7 crystals. As we pick up the crystal, it will float into the air, and we'll receive a message from the maiden inside. The women contained inside these crystals are the descendants of the 7 wise men that originally created the seal on the Golden Land. Which leads me to wonder, what would have happened if even one of those 7 wise men didn't have a surviving child? Would the seal have just lasted forever? Or would they have been unable to create the seal without a living child? I have no idea, but I got questions. In any case, this woman will tell us where all the other dungeons are and will mark them on the map. So that's pretty nice. And, just like all the other crystals, she will refill our magic and our health. So don't be afraid to use magic whenever you're fighting the bosses in this game. You will get a refill after you defeat them. Out here in the overworld, we can take our magic hammer for a spin. This enemy that throws bombs is called a Hinox, and the guy with the spear? Well, that's what a Moblin looks like here in A Link to the Past. The Moblins are one of the most classic Zelda enemies, and this rendition of them is recognizable as a Moblin when you look at the face. Just make your way back this way towards where the storyteller's hut was. We'll need to cut through this wall. And if you do get low on health, there is a fairy fountain right outside of this area, so we're going to head down through this wall, going against the arrows this time, and we're just going to follow the path along. So we did get totally refilled whenever we finished off that boss, but if you got a little bit beat up, there's a fairy fountain over here right outside of the exit. With our health restored, we're going to head down to the Ice Lake area, which is in the lower right corner of the Dark World map. There's a heart piece down here that we can grab, and this is something that we could have gotten before going into the Dark Palace, but right now we don't have any heart pieces, so until we get 4, there's no real reason to grab them. We are going to be able to get 4 now that we have the hammer, so now's a great time to head down here and look for this circle of rocks. You want to go into the shallow water in the middle of it, and that's where we're going to use our magic mirror to teleport back to the light world, where we'll find the 13th piece of heart. Once we have that heart piece, we can head back to the Dark World. The Ice Lake contains one of the dungeons that we'll need to go into later. In my opinion, the Ice Dungeon is probably the most difficult one in the game, but we're going to need the Fire Rod before we go in there, and we'll also need the Titan's Mitt to be able to open it up. So we can't do that dungeon just yet. Instead, we want to make our way back towards where Kakariko Village is, And something that you can do if you ever reveal a bee whenever you're cutting through the grass, if you use your magic powder on it, it'll turn into a fairy. You can also see that using your magic powder on these Tauros enemies turns them into a slime. So don't feel bad if you reveal a bee instead of a fairy. A bee is just a fairy that hasn't been transformed yet. Down here there are those posts that were blocking our way before. We can just pound them into the ground and be a little bit careful of some of the rocks in this area. They may actually be skull monsters in disguise. Looking at the map, we can see where the other dungeons are. Thanks, woman stuck in the crystal. And over here, we can head to the Dark World version of Link's house, which is inhabited by the Elephant Man? Strangely, this tiny man with the green elephant face sells bombs out of the dark side version of Link's house. It's not a very good deal, but later on he will develop something special that we'll be able to use for serious demolitions over at the Pyramid of Power, so we will be returning there later. For now though, we want to follow this path along to the dark side version of the Haunted Grove. In the light world, this mysterious clearing has a phantom child that appears to play a flute for some woodland creatures, but here in the dark world we meet this guy that looks like one of the bad guys from the Raccoons cartoon. Well, in any case, he gives us the shovel. The shovel is a lot more useful in Link's Awakening on the Game Boy, but if you need to find some supplies, you can just dig and you'll often find something good. We're not going to find anything that we need right here in the dark world though. Instead, we want to switch over to the light world. That's where we're going to find the flute, although you may recognize the flute as the ocarina. The name was changed for the English translation. So this is a pretty big space. Where should we dig? You know who knows? The Good Bee. If you release the Good Bee in this clearing, he will head over to this area, indicating that we should dig over here. You can catch him again with your bug net and put him back in his bottle, but if we dig where the Good Bee suggested, there it is, the flute. The flute is actually a very important item that we will need to be able to access one of the dungeons in the Dark World. The only thing is, it doesn't actually do much right now because we haven't found the duck yet that we will be able to summon with the flute to carry us to other locations. Talking to the flute's previous owner will give us a clue as to who we need to ask about the duck. He also asks us to play the flute one last time, and after we play the flute for him, well, he suddenly transforms into a tree? Is that what he wanted to happen? Well, in any case, that's what did happen whenever we played the flute, and I'm not going to feel responsible for it. He asked us to play that flute for him. Well, now that that's all taken care of, if we head over to this circle of purple bushes and use our magic mirror, we can find a cave that we weren't able to access before, and inside this one, there's another piece of heart. That's the 14th piece of heart. And once we get into the Village of Outcasts, which is what Kakariko Village is in the Dark World, we're going to be able to find 2 more pieces of heart to make a full container. So you definitely want to grab that one, and then follow this path up here. Follow the path over to the left. There's a shooting gallery over here, but this is just a place to win rupees. You do not need to perfect the shooting gallery to be able to get a piece of heart. This is actually a very difficult bonus stage. You want to try to hit those octopi in the background, so you need to time up your shots perfectly. You need to shoot a little bit ahead of where the octopi is going to be. And you also need to watch out for those hands that are moving in the front row. If your arrow hits a hand, you will receive nothing for it. I think there's probably a lot better ways to make rupees in this game instead of just trying to play this little bonus stage. So I recommend doing something else to rack up some cash. Over here, though, is a bonus stage that you may be a lot more interested in, because this one could actually yield a piece of heart. It costs 80 rupees to play, and he'll lend you a shovel, although we have one already. And then you need to just try to dig up as many spots on the ground as you can. Unfortunately, it's totally random whether or not you find the heart piece. I don't like to try to grab the rupees right away. Just devote your time to digging, and you should be able to get maybe 35 digs if you're good. You'll get about 31 if you're not trying very hard, but if you get more digs, you'll have a much better chance. Oh, there it is. So this one was very lucky. I've had it go before where I've had to do this 8 or 9 times before I actually got the piece of heart, so you do want to pick up the money so that you don't actually lose money from having to repeat this over and over again. But if you need to repeat it, you can just walk over off the screen and then walk back on, and you'll be able to try it again. As long as you're making close to the 80 rupees each time, you should eventually find the piece of heart, although it can be frustrating when it takes a long time. Just keep trying, you will dig it up eventually. With the 15th piece of heart in our pocket, we can return to the light world and head into Kakariko Village, where we can follow up on the tip that we got from the previous owner of the flute. He wants us to meet with an old man, so we're going to go into the inn, and you remember this guy? He was mumbling about his flute-playing son before, and if we play the flute now, he asks if we met his son, if he's all right, and then he says, "I can tell what you want to tell me by the look in your eyes." So you're saying that you can tell just by looking at me that your son has been transformed into a tree and is stuck to a stump in the dark world? That's a pretty good read, old man. Well, he said that we should go and play it at the Weathercock here in the center of town, and whenever we do, the duck appears. Oh yeah! Now we can go to all kind of different locations just by playing the flute. It only works in the light world, but you'll find that there's often a dark world teleporter right near wherever the duck drops you off. While the flute and the duck are mostly for your convenience, you would not be able to reach location number 6 without using the duck, and without being able to get there, you would not have access to one of the dungeons in the dark world. Up here, we're going to find the 16th piece of heart. You may recall from before that there were some lumberjacks that were trying to saw a tree down, and whenever you defeat Aghanim, those lumberjacks disappear, and instead you'll see that the tree they were sawing has differently covered leaves now. If we use our dash boots and hit it, the top of the tree will break off, revealing a hidden cave below, and inside, we will find heart piece number 16. We could have gotten this one a little bit earlier, but there's really no point in grabbing pieces of heart containers unless you can make a full one. So, there it is, heart container piece number 16. We will be able to find one more piece of heart container over in the Village of Outcasts, but for now it's nice to have another whole heart in our possession. Using our flute, we're going to head back to Kakariko Village. North of the village, there's one of those teleporter tiles that will take us back to the Dark World, and this is one of the most convenient Dark World tiles in the game, so we're going to be using it fairly often to get between the worlds, so you want to make sure that you know where this one is. To find it, you head up here onto the left side of the village and take this path through to the Lost Woods. The Lost Woods used to be very misty, but now we can see the light is shining through after we claimed the Master Sword. And we just want to head over here to the right, where we'll find another exit that's not very obvious. So you just go down through the trees, and if you need some magic, you can slam into that tree and you'll find a full magic refill, which is also something very useful to know where to find. Picking up this rock will take us into the Dark World, and now we're back right above where Kakariko Village would be, but now it's the Village of Outcasts. This teleporter tile that's located to the north of the village gives us access to a very large portion of the Dark World, and although the Village of Outcasts contains the next dungeon that we want to go to, there's a lot of exploring that we can do before we go in there. So we're going to skip the village for now, and up here, we'll see that the fortune teller's hut here in the Dark World is still the fortune teller's hut. So yeah, nothing changed there. If you need a clue, you can talk to the fortune teller, but you will be charged 20 rupees, so I don't really recommend it. We're going to head over here, and this will take us to the area that was the graveyard behind Hyrule Castle in the Light World. There's a lot of stuff to find over here in the Ghostly Garden. We can use our dash boots to break through some of these rock piles, and up here is where we want to use our magic mirror. Normally you would need the Titan's Mitt to be able to lift up the rocks to get into this area, but using our magic mirror we can actually access this spot early, and you need to use your dash boots to move that tombstone, which will reveal a hidden stairway underneath. This tomb contains an optional item, the Magic Cape, but it's a very good optional item. Whenever you use it, it will make Link invisible, but unlike the Cloak of Darkness in Wizards and Warriors, this will make him invincible too. It does suck up a bunch of magic while you're using it, but you can kind of blink it on and off to avoid enemies. And it will also let you walk through certain types of traps, including those big blue bumpers. You'll need the Magic Cape to be able to get one of the pieces of heart, and if you use your magic mirror up on this ledge, we'll find a different piece of heart, one hidden in the back of this cave. There's also a bunch of hearts here, which is nice, but we'll need a bomb to be able to blow open the back of the cave where the piece of heart is hidden. Conveniently, you can find bombs in this very cave if you're low on them, and that is the 17th piece of heart. We're going to need 3 more to make a full container, so we may not be able to make one before we get to the next dungeon, but we will be able to get close. Over here, there is one more hidden thing to find. This one is a lot less important, but if you want to grab some money, you can just push on this tomb. You don't want to hit it with your Pegasus boots, although you do need to hit your Pegasus boots on these walls. Do you remember this room from the very first area of the game? We couldn't get in here before, but now that we have the Pegasus boots, we can open up this tomb and find 300 rupees, a cache of bombs, arrows, and hearts. So that's all that's actually down here. It's a lot less exciting than you would think. This would have been a great place to hide one of the pieces of heart. But no, it's just a bunch of cash. It does make you think that you're probably going to need bombs somehow in the very first part of the game, but none of the enemies drop bombs, so it's kind of a fun little puzzle that they threw in. Once again, you're going to grab the right switch, and you will emerge from the sanctuary. Sadly, the priest is not here to be able to refill our health. That guy's dead. Now that we're done in the graveyard, we can use our flute and return to Kakariko Village. And we want to go to that Village of Outcasts, so we're going to use that same Dark World warp tile that's north of the village. You remember how to get there. You want to go over to the far left corner and take that path upwards. Later on, we'll have the Titan's Mitt and we'll be able to stop going up and around to get to this tile. But for now, we only have the hammer, so we have to go this way. Follow along. Head back up into the Lost Woods, just cut over to the right, and back down. If you need to refill your magic, that tree should have respawned the full magic refill, so you could collect it again if you need it. Doesn't look like we do, but it's there if you want it. And we will have to use our hammer to pound in these posts, lift up the rock, and we will be back to the Village of Outcasts. Or at least to the lower part of the Skull Woods. That bony bird there on the right side is actually the Dark World version of chickens, believe it or not. We're going to head down here, and that will take us into the village proper. One of the main places that we want to go here is this treasure chest game, where you'll be able to give this guy some money and he'll let you open 2 chests. And if you're very lucky, you'll find a piece of a heart container. Let's see. Alright, we were very lucky this time. Sometimes you have to enter and exit this place multiple times, playing the game over and over again until you find the heart container piece that you're looking for. and sometimes you'll get lucky and you'll find it in the first chest that you open. In any case, once you have it, you could head over to this house where you'll find a chest containing 300 more rupees. So if you do run out of money trying to play that game of chance, you can replenish your supply over here. That was the 18th piece of heart if you're keeping track, but the next thing that we're about to find is one of the most important things to find in the entire game. If you need an item shop, there is one located here in the village. It's not very exciting. What is exciting is what we can find over here to the right. Now those large rocks, we can't get through those right now, but we can use our magic mirror to come back to the light world. And you remember this zone, that's where the smithy is. Well, we didn't have the hammer before, so we couldn't hit this post, but now that we can jump into this well. Down here at the bottom of this well, we're going to meet one of my favorite characters, the Mad Batter. Use your magic powder on this statue, and this purple bat will appear. This guy is the Mad Batter, and he acts like he's very upset with us, and he's going to put a curse on Link. Oh no! I don't know how many people reset their game when they saw that this bat put a curse on Link, but it's actually a good thing. Now all of our magic spells will cost 50% magic. So we can actually use our big magic for only 16 MP. We can shoot our rods for only 8 MP. It's going to be so much better to use magic in the game now. This is absolutely one of the best optional upgrades. Without the upgrade from the Mad Batter, you will probably need to lean pretty heavily on the blue or green potions to keep your magic supply high. Since we have a ton of money right now, it's a great time to go and visit the Fountain of Happiness. For 100 rupees at the Fountain of Happiness, the fairy there will increase the amount of bombs or arrows that we can hold, and so we can do this almost 10 times right now, although we'll need to leave and get one more rupee to be able to get the 10th one. Right now, I was able to increase our bombs to 50, which is the maximum, but we'll need a little bit more money to get the arrows up to 70, which is the max. If you use a bomb on the right side, you can find some loose fairies, which can restore your health, or you can keep one in a bottle in case you die. Once you've had enough happiness, head on out, and we can use the flute again to summon our duck friend. This time we're going to have the duck carry us to number 1, which is Death Mountain. In Death Mountain, we're going to be able to find another optional item, and this is another very good one, called the Cane of Bryna. The Cane of Bryna is similar to the Magic Cape in that it can make Link invincible, but it also makes magic spin around him, which can damage enemies. So this is a pretty cool item, certainly not something that you need to finish the game with, but it will come in handy against a few bosses. To get the cane, we're going to need to take some pain, so you're going to want to make sure that you have full health before you attempt this, and I also recommend maybe having some potions or a way to replenish your magic just to be extra safe. With a full health bar and the magic upgrade from the Mad Batter, we should have no problem collecting this, but if you want to be a little more cautious, it's not a bad idea to bring along a potion. So we want to go through this Dark World warp tile, and from here we're just going to go straight down. There's a cave right below on this ledge. Inside there's some more of those whack-a-mole barriers, so we need the hammer to get this. And then there's a whole bunch of spikes that we need to walk through to get the treasure. If we use our magic cape, we can prevent the damage from the spikes, but it's going to drain a lot of our magic. You probably want to take at least some of the damage here because there are 8 hearts to find on the other side, so we're going to be able to get some of that health back. If you have some magic left over, you'll actually be able to activate the new cane and try it out. So I like to not use all of the magic while I'm going through the spikes, but if you have a way to refill your magic, it's not that big of a deal. Now we're going to head back and you'll see how the Cane of Bryna works. The problem with it is there's a big investment of magic whenever you activate it, but then it doesn't require quite as much to keep going. So you can't be turning it on and off regularly like you might with the magic cape. You'll want to use the Cane of Bryna for more sustained attacks. After sustaining all of that damage to get the cane, you might just need a fairy fountain, and there's one conveniently located right down here. So we can stop in and fill up. Once our wounds have been soothed by the fairy, we can exit back out the door and use our magic mirror to return to the light world, where we can freely use the flute to get back to Kakariko Village. So that's where we're going to go next, and whenever we get back to Kakariko Village, we're going to use that exact same Dark World warp tile to get back to the Dark World, and we're certainly going to want to smash that tree that's nearby to refill our magic. So this is that place that we're going to be going all the time to get to the Dark World. Let's head up into the Lost Woods, make a cut over to the right, and we'll be able to find our way back to the Village of Outcasts. So here we go, back up through the same route once again. You may have been wondering, after I told you before that that bony bird thing was the Dark World version of chickens, if we can beat up that chicken the same way we could the ones in the Light World. Well, whenever we get to the Dark World here, let's do a little experiment. To find out if a bony chicken apocalypse is possible, there's a test subject right here near the warp tile. We'll get him stuck up here in the corner and just beat on this chicken mercilessly. Please note that this channel does not condone violence against real animals. Please do not beat up any chickens in real life. If you do and a bunch of their bony friends attack you, you only have yourself to blame. So yeah, the Dark World chickens work a whole lot like the Light World chickens. I'm glad we tested that out. Now that we have the cape, I did mention that there's a piece of heart where we needed the cape to be able to get it. And to find that piece of the heart container, we're going to head up here near where the fortune teller was. And we're going to go in the Dark World equivalent of where the entrance to Death Mountain would be in the Light World. So head up here above that pond, and you're going to see an odd sign up here. Whenever you read this sign, this guy says, "I'll give a piece of heart to the person who wears the cape." Well, that's a pretty obvious clue. I guess the testers must have thought it was a little bit too difficult to figure out how to get past this bumper. Now, if you've played this game before, you may be thinking that you also need the hook shot to be able to get this piece of heart, but you actually don't. If you have the magic cape, you'll be in business. Up here, it seems like you need the hook shot to cross this gap, but if you just go carefully to the left, you can walk right around that pit, no problem. You will need the cape to get through this bumper though. Using the cape, you'll be able to walk right through. And on the other side, we'll emerge on this upper ledge, and we will find the 19th piece of heart. You may want to use your magic cape to get through this area. Those horned birds are called Dactos, and they can deal a ton of damage. Once you get through there, we're going to want to go to the next dungeon, but we took quite a bit of damage, so we'll want to refill our health first. There's a very easy way to do that. You can try to cut bushes and grass and see what items you find, but since we're here in the Village of Outcasts, we can just use our magic mirror, and that will put us right in front of Blind's hideout. Just as always, there's pots in here that have hearts that are constantly respawning. Just enter and exit as many times as you need to refill your life bar to the max. Even if you're one half heart short, remember, if you have full health, you'll be able to shoot beams from your sword, and if you're half a heart shy, you won't. So you might as well take the extra second to go in there and grab another heart. Once you're ready to go, we can go back into the portal that our mirror created, and the entrance to the dungeon is located in the center of town below the gargoyle. To get in, we just need to pull on the pitchfork using the A button, and the path will be revealed. This dungeon, known as the Gargoyle's Domain, features some unique mechanics. In the very first room we can find the map, and when you look at it, you may notice that this is level 4. Now, don't be too worried about that. This is actually one of the easier levels, and the item that we find in here will allow us to get our sword upgrade, and that's going to make levels 2 and 3 a breeze. Speaking of easy, if you take the lower path in the upper right corner of the first room, you can follow it up, right, and down, which will lead you to this room, where you can drop down and head to the left, and that will take you to the lower right corner of the first room, where you'll find the big key. With the big key already in our possession, we can head back the way that we came, and this time let's take care of some of these Dyra enemies. The Dyra lizard men can be tough to fight with your sword, but if you use the ether magic, they'll be frozen, and now that we have the hammer, we can use it to smash frozen enemies, which instantly kills them. But that's not all it does. Whenever you smash a frozen enemy with a hammer, it has a very high chance of dropping an MP recovery item, including the big one that fills up your magic completely to the top. If you know which enemies can be frozen, you can see how this combination of the ether magic and the hammer can be very, very powerful. On the upper tier, we can grab the compass, and once we have it, we want to head back through this tunnel, and up here, we're going to make our way back to the upper tier, and follow it towards the upper right corner, where we'll see a door that requires the big key. We have the big key, so getting in here is no problem, and inside there's a bunch of Stalfos, but we don't actually have to kill them, although it is pretty easy to take them out using our Quake magic. But what we do need to do in here is open up that skull pot in the upper right corner, because underneath it, we're going to find a key. We need that key to enter the door in the lower left corner, so we'll take our key and immediately use it. And when we get in here, there's more of those Dyras. We know what to do with them. We can use our ether magic to freeze them in place, and then crush them with the hammer. Once again, we find the full magic recovery item, and with this combination of the ether magic and the hammer, we can feel a lot like the Norse god Thor. This is a great room to use your magic cape to get past the traps, and we can use it again here. You can even charge with your dash boots. This room is filled with traps, but they're actually easy to outwit. If we pick up this skull, we'll find a key, and if you plant a bomb right near that post switch and then head towards the door, we'll be able to pop the switch, which will change it to blue, and then we'll be able to go upstairs, avoiding all the traps. It looks like we need to pull on the lever in the upper right corner, but that's actually a trick. The real switch is in the lower right corner. If you pull on that lever, it'll drop a bunch of bombs on you. In this room, just head straight across. There's a bunch of light shining in through the window, and in this room, the light is shining right on some cracks in the floor. If we open up the treasure chest, we'll find bombs. Is the game trying to tell us something? It is. If you put a bomb down, pick it up with the A button, and then throw it on top of that broken spot, it'll blow open a hole which will allow the light to shine down through. The boss of this dungeon is none other than Blind the Thief, a character that many NPCs have told us doesn't like light, and opening up that hole in the floor will shine light down into the boss's room. We can use our cape to get past the traps this time. We want to keep the post switch on blue so we can head over into this room where we can show these Dyras the true power of Thor once more. You'll notice that the red amoeba-like enemy called a Gibo is unaffected by our ether magic, so that's why you can't just use the same spells all the time. Some enemies are just unaffected by certain types of magic. We can just avoid that guy for now though, and we can avoid all the enemies in this room and make our way down to basement number 2. There's a bunch of Dairas down here, so once again we'll make them ride the lightning. But the key feature of this room is the large block in the middle, which we can actually just lift up because we have the power glove. We actually were able to replenish our magic once again. A very good system that we got going on here. And defeating all the enemies will open up the door on the left side, but that's not actually where we need to go right now. We want to lift up that block in the middle and head down here. There are two important things to find down here in basement floor number 2. The first one is a hostage which is being held in a jail cell over here on the right. If you remember from the very first level, the big key is able to open up these prison doors. So make your way through, use ether magic if you need to. We can just take out these guys with our sword. And up here we'll find a captive. In addition to the captive, we'll find a key. Now she's going to follow us just like the old man did on the mountain, just like Zelda did at the beginning of the game. But before we take her to where she needs to go, we're going to head over here to the left, play a little bit of whack-a-mole, and find a very important item, the Titan's Mitt. Once you get the Titan's Mitt in typical Indiana Jones fashion, the floor will start to fall out from under you, so quickly escape from the room and make your way back to the center where we'll find the stairs that lead back to basement floor number 1. With the Titan's Mitt, we're finally going to be able to lift up those heavy black boulders that we've been unable to lift for the entire game. Up here on basement floor 1, we can hit the switch and enter this room, which we've been in before, and up here we'll find the boss's chamber, and when we walk the hostage up into the light, she reveals her true form. It's Blind the Thief. Unlike most bosses in this game, this guy doesn't care how much damage you deal whenever you hit it. It only cares that you hit each one of its heads 3 times. You need to use a sword type damage, but you can use the Cane of Bryna. That deals minimal damage, but it counts as a level 1 sword attack, so those hits from the cane actually count, and the cane itself will protect Link from damage, making this boss just way too easy. Once he's defeated, you'll be able to grab another heart container, and we'll be able to pick up another crystal. We have 5 more to go. So now that we know that that captive was actually Blind the Thief in disguise, I have so many questions. Like, does Blind normally dress up like a woman and then hide in a prison cell? Is that something he just does regularly? Or did someone alert him that Link was entering the dungeon and he's like, alright, now it's time to put my plan into action. And that plan is like, hide in a prison cell dressed like a woman. Step 2. Step 3, profit? Yeah, I'm not sure when we were going to get stabbed in the back there. It sure seemed like all we were going to do is lead him to the boss's room where we would have a normal fight. And in that case, why not just wait in the boss's room like every other boss does? These bosses in The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past can be total drama queens. If you don't have very much money in your pockets, you can blow a hole in the side of this building, and inside you'll find a treasure chest that contains 300 rupees. We're about to get our sword tempered by the smithies, so we're going to need some money for that. Make your way down here to the exit of the village, and if we head over here to the left, we'll find some of those heavy stones, which we can lift now because we have the Titan's Mitt, and behind them, we'll find this frog who will begin to follow us. This is actually the smithy's missing partner, so if he tells you that he's a frog prince, that's a lie and he's just trying to trick you into making out with him. Before we take him back to his partner though, we can now lift up these heavy boulders over here as well, and that takes us to this stake garden. If you pound down all of the posts in the stake garden, then we'll be able to open up a secret room. And inside it, we're going to find another piece of heart. That's actually piece of heart number 20, which is enough to get us another whole heart container. So yeah, the smithies will have to wait, Another whole heart container is very important. And there it is. Our life level has increased. Alright, now I suppose we can take this guy back to his partner. We'll use our magic mirror to go back to the light world. Watch where you're leaving the portal, it could be awkward if you put it in a bad spot. And we're going to head up here into the smithy's house. He is very happy to see his partner again. Now that they've been reunited, they're willing to temper your sword, but you have to leave and come back first. So exit and then come back in. And now when you talk to them, they'll offer to temper your sword for a whopping 10 rupees. Yeah, buddy, you could have charged a whole lot more than that. If you equip your magic hammer, you can try to help, but they don't really appreciate amateur assistance. At this point, you'll be left without a sword, but to get it back, you just need to walk off the screen and then walk back on again and visit with the smithies again. Whenever you talk to them this time, they'll hand you back your sword, but it's going to be much better this time. This is the Tempered Sword, or the level 3 sword. There's only one sword that's more powerful than this. The Tempered Sword can deal a lot of damage, although you'll notice that the beam attack still deals the same amount that it did with the Master Sword, and the beam attack will never deal more damage than that. Back here in the Dark World, we can now find this strange treasure chest, but the chest talks to us and gives us some bad news. The key is locked inside it, so there's no way to unlock it. Well, maybe someone who used to be a thief would know how to unlock it? We'll use our flute, and don't worry, the treasure chest will still follow you, and we'll take it to number 7. Now, you could get separated from the treasure chest if you get hit by an enemy, or you start running too fast, so make sure that it stays following you. If you lose it, just kind of walk back over to it and it'll start following again. We're going to come here to that middle-aged man by the sign. As long as we promise to keep his secret, he will open up the chest for us, and we'll be able to find the 4th and final bottle. Now, if you tell him that you won't keep his secret, he'll be like, well then, good luck opening that chest on your own. So yeah, we'll keep your secret, my man. And now we have the full 4 bottles. Pretty awesome. Up here in this corner, we'll see a few more of those posts that we can pound down with our hammer. And behind them, underneath that very conspicuous looking rock, we'll find another entrance to the Dark World. Now, this is not the only way to get to this area in the Dark World. We could have certainly walked here from a different part, but that entrance is very convenient for what we need to do. And you may remember in the Light World part of the swamp, there was a hidden cave in this corner, and there's a hidden cave in the corner of the Dark World as well, once again accessible with a bomb. Inside we'll find a guy that's normally a Piku enemy, but this one will actually give us 300 rupees when we talk to him, and behind him, if we use a bomb, we can actually find 80 more rupees hidden in some treasure chests. That's a pretty good haul. There is another dungeon in this area, and that's ultimately where we're going to be going next. But before we do that, there is one more optional magic that we can get, and it's not very far away from here. Watch out for that enemy, it can try to steal some of your items. And just make your way down and to the left. We're going to head towards where the Desert of Mystery would be if this was the Light World. We won't be able to completely get over there, so just head through this little corridor. That's where the guy with the sign would be if this was the Light World. And you want to go behind these pegs, and that's where we want to use our magic mirror. This is going to take us to an upper ledge in the Desert of Mystery that we were unable to reach before. And when we use our Book of Mudora on this Mudoran monument, we will gain the magic of Bombos. Now, Bombos is a very powerful magic, just like the Quake and Ether magics that we've gotten before, but those other two magics are required to open up certain dungeons, while the Bombos magic is completely optional. However, there are some enemies out there that are particularly weak to the Bombos magic, so you'll certainly like to have it in your inventory. We could have picked up the spell of Bombos before we went to the previous dungeon, but it's very convenient to grab it before we head to the Swamp Palace. Once we do enter the Swamp Palace though, you'll notice that we can't get very far. Over here we'll hear a clue from Sahasrahla. He tells us that if something changes in the light world, it may affect its dark world counterpart. Well, if we use our magic mirror, that will bring us back to the swamp ruins in the light world, and you remember how to operate them. We did it several times when we were trying to sell that fish and also trying to get a piece of heart out from the lake near here. So we just want to head up here, and we're going to pull the switch on the right side. Remember that the one on the left is a trap, and if you need to get a little bit of health back, you could use your magic powder to hit that anti-fairy and turn it into a normal fairy. This is a very unique part of the game because this is the only time when doing something in the light world actually affects what happens inside of a dark world dungeon. You can see that there's water in here now, and we can swim over to this ledge that we were unable to reach before. You do need to kill these water bugs. Defeating them will spawn a treasure chest that contains a key. That key obviously will unlock the door that leads down to basement floor number 1, and this is where the bulk of the dungeon takes place. There's a cracked wall over here on the left, and when we blow it up with a bomb, we'll reveal a secret passage, and behind it we'll be able to find the map. Whenever we look at the map, we'll be able to see the layout of the dungeon. The key to this dungeon is that there are several levers that we'll need to operate that will fill some channels with water. These are often referred to as water gates, and that's why this is often known as the Water Gate Dungeon. Or maybe it's because the boss is Richard Nixon, I'm not sure. A key hidden inside of a skull will open up this door, and in here, it might be a nice time to try out that new Bombos magic that we got. It's very effective against this Stalfos and these Bari enemies. It doesn't even make the red one split into two small pieces, as it often does. We'll head down this ladder, and up here we'll be able to lift up another skull, and underneath it, another key. We're going to need that key to be able to unlock this door up here. So far, this dungeon has been pretty straightforward. You'll just need to find a key and unlock a door that's pretty close to where the key's location was. But now that we're up here, we're going to be able to open one of those water gates. Before we do that though, we can blow open this wall, and inside, well, it's not a very good prize, just a few rupees and another bomb. So better than nothing, I guess. But we'll need to use our hammer to play a little bit of whack-a-mole, and to operate these water gates, you need to push them from behind. So just kind of walk behind it and press Link's body up against the lever, and that will push it to its desired position, which will let the water flow. Now that this chamber is flooded, we can just jump into the water and swim over to the ledge on the left. Through this door, we'll enter the dungeon's main central chamber. There are a lot of paths that lead off of this one, and if you look, you'll see that the big treasure chest is also hidden right there in the middle of the room. We don't have the big key yet, so we won't be able to open it, and that's why we're going to head down here in the lower left corner, because this is going to put us on a path to getting it. We can use our Bombos magic again. It's very good against the Stalfos and Bari enemies, and we even got some of our MP back, so we'll be able to cast it again. In here we'll find a key underneath the skull, and you can see there's another one of those water gates up on the ledge to the right. We need to get into that room, but we're blocked by some blue posts in this room. So what we're going to need to do is head through here and use a key to get into this door in the upper left corner. Once we get in there, we'll be able to use our boomerang to release that post switch. And then we'll be able to go over to that water gate and start up the water. Carefully get past that spike trap, and then just push Link against that lever, which will fill up the chamber and allow us to swim to another area. You do want to make sure that you switch the post switch back to red before you leave the room. And instead of leaving the room through the bottom as you might think you would, you want to go back out the door that you came through and head down this way. We're going to jump into the water and swim over to the left side. And very shortly here, you're going to see why we needed to leave the post switch in the red position. This room will lead us back up to the first floor. So we're just going to drop down here, push this block at the bottom, then the one in the middle can be pushed upward so that you can get through. And that will lead you to the door that takes you upstairs. From up here, we're going to be dropping down into basement 1 from one of the holes. It seems like you need to drop down the left hole because that's where the treasure chest is, but this is more of a decoy treasure chest. It has 20 rupees in it, which is not particularly exciting. What you really need to be doing is to drop through the hole on the right side. So we push the blocks again, we're heading back up the stairs, and this time we're going to take the hole on the right side. If you need a little bit of a recharge, there's actually some skulls down in the bottom, and underneath them you can find a bunch of hearts and a few rupees as well. Watch out for the enemies, push the block over on the right side and drop down into this hole, which will put you over on this side. And if you didn't have the post switch in the correct position, you'd be blocked there. But since we have it the right way, we're going to be able to head through and open this treasure chest, which contains the big key. Now that we have the big key, we're going to be able to open the big chest, which is over in that central chamber. So we can just drop down here, head back down this path, climb up the ladder, and go through the door on the right side, which will take us right back where we need to be. So we just need to swim across this room to the right, and once we exit through the door on the right side, that's going to take us back to that main central chamber, where we'll be able to get that big treasure chest. But if you're interested in finding the compass, which is not the most exciting item, it just tells you where the boss is, well, it's located in this room. You need to push this block, and that will make a treasure chest appear, but you can't reach it from where you're at, so you have to go all the way around to be able to grab it. There's only a few not very dangerous enemies in here, so it's pretty easy to get the compass if you want it. And there it is. Once you have the compass, or if you don't want the compass, feel free to skip it. It's not super important. But we just need to go back to that main central chamber, and we're just going to walk right up the ladder where we'll be able to open that big treasure chest and reap our rewards. So here we go. And what's hidden in there? It's the first appearance of the hookshot. I think that the hookshot has appeared in almost every Zelda game since this one, but this is the first appearance. If we use it to latch onto this skull over on the right side, you'll be able to go across and grab a key. And you can also use the hookshot as a weapon. It's pretty good against those Bari enemies that can electrocute you. Although the hookshot is made out of metal, you will not get electrocuted whenever you're using it that way. With the key that we found, we'll be able to enter this room, and yeah, we can use our hookshot as a weapon against those Baris, although if they're too close to the wall, it will not work. It'll just kind of bounce off. We need to push the statue on top of that switch, but you don't want to go through the door that's over on the left side. We actually want to go through this door on the right. So that path on the left leads to a dead end, but this path is where we wanted to go. If we had taken the other path, we would have come out of the other door and we wouldn't be able to push this switch. You have to push it from the right side to the left. You cannot pull on it, it won't work. So that's the only way to do it. You need to come through that door and then carefully make your way down here, where you'll see that this area has been drained of water, and we can now find 40 rupees hidden in the treasure chests, as well as a few hearts hidden underneath the skulls. That part, of course, is optional. The way that we need to go is through this room, where if you push one of these blocks, this one right here, you'll be able to find a hidden treasure chest that contains 20 rupees. And there's also a room over here on the left side where you'll be able to grab a little bit more loot. As you pick up the skulls over here, though, you'll notice that there's another room on the right, and that's where we actually need to go. But to get there, we need to walk through the waterfalls in the background. One of them is actually fake. It's this one right here. Once you pass through, you'll be able to go upstairs back to the first basement. Once we get up here, we are very close to the boss. You'll notice that this room is shaped like a C, and the rooms next to it are shaped like a T and an L. Is that a reference to the band TLC that did the song Waterfalls? That album didn't come out until '94, so no, but you can chase the current over here to the right to get a key. It may seem extreme to use the ether magic against those small enemies, but they're actually kind of difficult to hit while they're swimming in the water, so I don't actually mind using it there. Especially considering that once we bomb this wall, we'll find a whole bunch of supplies hidden underneath these skulls, so we don't really need to worry about much of anything. Once you're all filled up, exit the L room, jump into the water, and carefully swim over to the ledge on the left side, open the door with the key, and make your way into the boss's room. This boss is called Argus, and he's protected by a shield of these fuzz monsters. To get them off, you need to pull them with the hook shot, and I recommend trying to get as far away from the boss as you can whenever you use the hook shot, so that you can pull it far away and be able to hit the fuzz with 2 swings of your sword. You'll need to take out 13 of those fuzz monsters, and be aware that whenever you're using the hook shot, you're actually invincible. So if you get into some trouble, just fire off the hook shot and you'll be safe. After you remove all 13 fuzz, the boss will enter its second phase, where it'll jump up into the air and land down near you, and you want to hit it with a charge attack from your sword. If you just hit it with a swing, you will only deal 8 damage, but the charge attack deals 16, so 2 charge attacks will be plenty to finish off phase 2, and earn you another heart container and another crystal. Not bad. The woman within this crystal tells us a story about Ganondorf, the thief. Ganondorf possessed the Triforce here in the Golden Land and was able to use it to make a wish. It seems that he was not able to wish to conquer the world of light. Maybe the Triforce does have some limitations, but it certainly allowed him to conquer this world and to bend it to his own twisted whims. It sounds like a pretty tall order to be able to defeat an evil sorcerer within the world of his own creation, but that is what we must do. She also reminds us that we have some abilities that only the hero could take advantage of, and while that is reassuring, we're going to need a lot more power to be able to take out the evil King of Darkness. Well, that's 1 more crystal down, 4 left to go. Unfortunately, the hookshot doesn't really open up too much of the overworld for us. There is one spot over in Death Mountain that we were unable to reach before, but there really isn't much to find over there. However, we do have a lot of leftover money, so we're going to stop over to the Fountain of Happiness. We almost have maximum happiness right now. We only need to give the fairy 100 more rupees to be able to max out our arrows to 70, and then we'll have maximum arrows and bombs. We've been to the Fountain of Happiness a number of times on this adventure, and this is going to be our last trip. So we're going to throw 50 rupees into the fountain 2 times, and we will finally be able to get that last upgrade for our arrows. But you may be wondering, well, what happens if we continue to throw money into the Fountain of Happiness? Well, if you throw 100 more rupees into the fountain, you will get to see the fairy again, but this time she will not be able to upgrade your arrows or your bombs, so she'll be forced to give you the money back. She'll also give you a little bit of a clue about another fairy that may be able to help us out. So we'll be able to see that now, but the real interesting thing is, you can actually use this to manipulate your luck. Remember that whenever you get the message that you get great happiness, well, then the next 10 enemies that you kill will automatically drop a prize, as long as they were an enemy that could drop one. So if you want to use that to manipulate your happiness for free, you will get the money back, and you can just keep doing it until you see that great luck message. All of the other messages will either give you reduced luck or neutral luck. You may have noticed that right outside the Fountain of Happiness is one of those heavy stones that we can lift with our Titan's Mitt, and underneath it there is a warp tile that will take us to the Dark World, but that warp tile is located right in front of the Ice Palace, and we are not ready for the Ice Palace yet. We need the Fire Rod to be able to get through there, so that's the next thing that we need to find, and we'll find it hidden in the Skull Woods Dungeon. The Skull Woods Dungeon is not very large, but it can be difficult to navigate because there are a lot of different entry points, and each one of those entry points will bring you to a different part of the dungeon. As we make our way over to the right here and then head upwards, we'll notice that there is one entry point right here, but we're going to walk by that one for now. There's actually another entry point hidden in the purple bushes behind it, but we're going to pass by that entry point as well. Instead, we want to head over to this entry point, which will bring us into this room. These mummy enemies are known as Gibdos, and Gibdos take a lot of damage from your sword to kill, but if you use the ether magic or the ice rod, you can freeze them solid, and we know that if we freeze them solid, we can hit them with the hammer, and we'll have a very good chance of being able to get some MP recovery items. One thing you need to be particularly careful about here in the Skull Woods dungeon are Wall Masters. Wall Masters are those hands that drop down out of the sky, and if they catch you, they will bring you back to the most recently used dungeon entrance, and they'll reset the enemies in that room oftentimes as well. So that's pretty annoying. Whenever you need to move the statue in that previous room, I like to use the Cane of Bryna to keep myself safe. Always be cautious of the Wall Masters. No matter how many times you kill them, they will just keep on respawning. The treasure chest in this room has the big key that we need, and if you blow a hole in the wall on the right side, you'll actually find a skull that has a full MP recovery item hidden underneath. Not bad. We didn't actually need any more magic points, but if you were low, that's a great place to fill them up. Back in this room, push the statue out of the way and exit through the entrance. And then we're going to backtrack back towards some of those entrances that we passed by previously. We want to enter the one that's underneath these purple bushes. So just chop them apart and jump into the hole. Now that we have the big key, the next thing that we need to find is the big chest, and it's very close to this room. Use a bomb and open up the left wall, but before you go in there, make sure to touch this yellow star on the floor. That will get rid of some pits that are going to be in the floor of the next room. Now you'll be able to freely pull on that lever, which will blow open the wall below you, and if you need to restore a little bit of your magic, you can use the hook shot to get up into the corner and find some MP recovery items. Down here, we will find the dungeon's item, the Fire Rod. The Fire Rod and the Ice Rod are both very important. We'll need them to defeat a boss at the end of the Turtle Rock dungeon, but we're probably going to use the Fire Rod a lot more. It has a couple other uses. Particularly, we're going to need it to defeat the boss of the Ice Dungeon. Much like many of the other dungeons in this game, we'll also be using the fire rod to open up the final portion of this dungeon. And that's where we're going to go next. So we want to go back to the same entrance that we went in before when we were looking for the big key. So we'll head back over there. The last time we were in here, we took the door at the top of the screen, but we haven't been through the door over here on the left, so that's where we want to go now. Cut through this room and then quickly make your way to the skull in the upper left corner, being careful to avoid wall masters. Once you have the key, don't worry about the locked door in this room. You just want to take that key and we're going to carry it with us to the next part of the dungeon, where it's going to be a shortcut to get us through to the end. You'll need to use your fire rod here. Just shoot it at the front of those bones and it will open the path forward. If you didn't have a key here, you'd have to go down below and wind your way around to find a key in the chest. But since we do have one, we can just walk to the end. Nice. You need to be careful not to touch those switches in the middle of the room. That's the key to getting through there. So just walk along the edge of them and make your way into this room, where you'll want to fight all of the enemies, watching out for wall masters again, and making sure to clear the way in front of those lanterns so that you'll be able to light them all using your fire rod. Quickly use the fire rod, light up all 4 lanterns. They will all need to be lit for you to be able to go through the door, so make sure to light the one at the bottom first so that you'll be close to the door whenever you light the last one. In this room we can use our ether magic and we can smash an enemy with our hammer. We got some of our magic points back. And if you swing your sword at the top of the room, you'll open a hidden door where we'll find another path. We need one more key and that Gibdo has it, so we can use our ether magic to freeze everyone and then smash them with the hammer. And there it is, we got a full magic refill and the key that we need to open up the right door. Remember, the wall masters do not quit in this place, so watch out for them. And once you jump into that hole, it's going to be time to fight the boss, Mothula. Mothula is a giant moth, and every other boss in this game is safe against bees, but not this guy. You can actually use the good bee, and while the good bee only deals 2 damage per hit, Mothula only has 32 HP, so it actually does add up. I like to use the Cane of Bryna to keep myself safe, and try to deal the rest of the damage by attacking Mothula with a sword. There's a lot of traps in this room, so having full magic points and the Cane of Bryna going will make it very easy to fight the boss without having to worry about getting spiked. Once Mothula is defeated, we'll be able to grab another heart container and the 4th crystal. As the crystal floats up into the air, once again we get a message from the woman that is frozen inside. As usual, she's very thankful to no longer be in the clutches of an evil monster, and you can hardly blame her. Being captured by a giant moth monster does not sound like my idea of a good time. This time we hear about the prophecy of the Great Cataclysm. Apparently, if someone evil gets the Triforce, there's a prophecy that says a hero will come to challenge that evil person. And it seems that that hero, well, it's Link. Yep, we must rescue the other maidens who are trapped in the crystals. Now we only have 3 left to go. Once we're outside the dungeon, we can use our magic mirror to return to the light world, and then we'll be free to use our flute to go wherever we want to go. The next dungeon is the Ice Dungeon, and that is a very difficult one, so it's a good idea to stop over here at the potion shop and make sure to pick up a few bottles of blue potion, or at least maybe some green potions, although you can get the green potion for free over at the Waterfall of Wishing if you're feeling a bit frugal. Whatever you do, you want to make sure that you have something to refill your magic points with, just in case you run out whenever you get to the depths of this dungeon. The last thing that you want to be doing is fighting the boss and not having enough power to defeat him. Once you have a reasonable supply of medicine, We did lose the good bee whenever we were fighting Mothula, so if you want to get the good bee back, all you need to do is return to this cave and bump into this statue once again. You can get the good bee as many times as you need to, and Mothula is the only boss that you'll be able to use the bee against, but there is one more thing that you can do with him. You can actually take him to the bazaar merchant back in Kakariko Village, and he'll buy it from you. Yeah. He was willing to buy our fish before, and if we go over here and release the good bee near him, well, he'll be willing to buy that too. Oh, he'll fly over and he'll say, "Wow, I've never seen such a rare bug," and then he'll give you 100 rupees for it. You can actually go back to that same cave near Lake Hylia and get the good bee again, even after selling it, so you don't have to worry too much that you won't be able to get your good bee back if you want him. And once that's all taken care of, it's time to make our way to the next dungeon. We know exactly where the ice dungeon is. It's located right in front of the Fountain of Happiness. Now, if you need to refill your health before you go in there, we can always stop up here in the Fountain of Happiness and go into the room on the right side where there's a bunch of fairies. You can catch one in a bottle if you want to have a little bit of a failsafe. Of course, medicine is better at this point in the game, but if you do mess up and lose your last heart, it is nice to have a fairy to back you up. And now we're going to lift up that heavy rock. Underneath it we'll find the warp tile, which will take us to the Dark World, right in front of the dungeon entrance. Right here at the very beginning of the dungeon, we'll fight a Freezor enemy, which you'll have to use your fire rod to damage. You could actually use the Bombos medallion, that would work too, but the fire rod's going to be a lot more efficient. And if you don't have the fire rod, you're not going to get very far in this dungeon anyways. You'll need it for the boss. In here we'll fight some more Bari enemies. Using your hookshot will keep you safe from their electricity, and when you kill one of them, it will drop a key. We'll need to use that key to open the door, which will take us down to basement floor number 1. There's an obvious switch over here that'll open up the door, and watch out for the little green slime monsters that come up out of the floor. In this room, you can push the block in the middle, and then you can enter this room where you'll have to fight several Pengators. Pengators will slide across the icy floor, and you'll notice that you won't be able to walk very effectively here on the ice, which is pretty annoying. Whenever you've defeated all of the Pengators, a treasure chest will appear, and inside, we'll find the compass. Yeah, not the most useful item, but if you were wondering where the compass is, that's where you'll find it. If you don't need to find the compass, you can just enter and exit that room. You just want to be able to push that block again so that you can push on this switch and enter this room, where there's even more Pengators to fight. We'll try using our Bombos medallion this time, which is another very effective way to defeat them. Just like we've done in many other rooms, there's an anti-fairy in here, so we can use our magic powder to turn it into a regular fairy, but it can be a bit more difficult to do whenever you're sliding around on the ice. All that we really needed to do in this room was hit that switch so that we can open the door back up, and we can return to this room where we'll be able to hit the switch, push the block, and enter this room, which contains a post switch and a spot in the middle of the room that we can blow up with some bombs. Use your hookshot to get some of these Bari enemies out of the way, and then we need to figure out what to do with this post switch. We need it to be in the blue position so that we can walk to the back of the room, but then it needs to be in the other position so we can use a bomb as a time delay mechanism. The bomb will hit the switch, and then we can blow up the middle of the floor, which will reveal a hole that we can jump into, and that will take us down here to basement floor number 2. There are 2 large skeleton knight enemies in this room, and the way that you need to fight them is hit it first with the sword, and when it collapses into a pile of bones, drop a bomb on it. If you don't drop the bomb on it, it'll just get back up and keep trying to fight you over and over again. With both skeleton knights killed, you'll be able to open the door and head into the next room, which has a moving floor and a bunch of spike traps. If you have shooting swords like I do right now, you can use them. Otherwise, use the hook shot against these Bari enemies so you don't get caught by their electrocution. One of them will drop a key for you. Don't hit that post switch. Just keep it on red and make your way through the key door at the bottom. The switch to exit this room is in the lower left corner, and don't forget that you can use your hook shot to make you invincible while you're using it. You can even use the hook shot to go right through that fire bar. Once you're in this room, you can come down here to get a little bit more of your magic refilled, but you don't need to go back into the previous room. You just want to go down the stairs and into basement floor number 3, where you'll face off with a bunch of Pengators. They are easily defeated with a charged spin attack, and once you kill them all, you'll be able to head up into this room that has a large spike trap. Let the spike trap move towards you, and then move by it while it's retracting. You want to get up into this room. Try to grab a heart on the side, but you're going to drop into the pit that starts to open up. We are deep in the dungeon now. Take this door over on the right side, and you're going to need to use your hook shot to get across. The hook shot will kill the Bari enemies, but it'll also keep you safe from them. And once you get down here, you can trigger that spike trap and try to get around it. We need to get to the stairs that are leading upwards. Underneath that skull, you'll find a switch that will get us a key, but you don't want to use the key on the door on the left side. No, you actually want to go up the stairs on the right. You'll also notice that there's a cracked wall on the right side, but don't waste your bombs. It will not blow up. Up here on floor number 2, there's actually a lot of stuff hidden in this little room. Watch out for this skeleton knight. Remember that to kill him, you'll need to use a bomb. And then you'll need to do a little whack-a-mole to get to this block in the middle, which hides a key. It also hides this strange enemy that if you touch it will turn you into the rabbit form for a few moments, so you'll want to avoid that. To open the door on the right, you need to pull on that tongue in the upper left, but that's not all that's here. Down here we'll find a switch which reveals a treasure chest, and inside that treasure chest, well, that's where the map is hidden. So if you've been wondering where the map is, yeah, it's actually hidden pretty well in this one. If we look at the map, we can see that there are a lot of floors in this dungeon, but they're all pretty small, and we've actually been to most of the rooms already. Yet we haven't found the big key yet. I wonder where that might be hidden. If you head over here to the right and up these stairs, we'll find a small treasure chest in this room, and inside it, that is where the big key that we've been looking for is hidden. Now that we have it, we'll be able to open the big treasure chest, but we haven't even seen it yet. It must be located somewhere very far down below. With the big key in hand, head back through the map room, back down here to basement 3 where there was the locked door on the left side, and this time we're going to use one of our 2 small keys to open that up, and it's going to bring us back to this room with the large spike in the middle. Get that spike a-moving and head over here to this room on the left. This is one of the more obnoxious rooms in the game. Because of the icy floor, it can be very difficult to avoid that fire bar, and it can also be a real pain to try to get into the stairs over here on the left side. For whatever reason, you seem to slide right past them most of the time. Try to use the line at the top to line up with them and push yourself down in, and when you get into this room, you just want to jump into the pit on the right side. Oh, there's where the big treasure chest is. The big key door looks very inviting there at the top of the screen, but head over to the right first where we'll find a key underneath the skulls on the left. The skull in the upper right has the switch that you need to open the door. Carefully navigate the ice and make your way back to the door that we entered the room through. And then we're going to go through that big key door this time. Head through this room, watching out for the Bari enemies and the skeleton knights that drop out of the sky. You do not need to kill them. Just get past those guys and use your key on the door to head downwards. Down here on floor 6 in the next room, there's a skull you can lift up that has a switch underneath it, but unless you're holding the switch down, you won't be able to keep open the door. So how are we going to deal with that? Well, if you come over into this room and hit that post switch, and well, we got hit by the thing that turned us into a rabbit, So we'll just wait for that to wear off for a moment, and we can pick up some good stuff underneath these skulls. But the key thing in this room is to switch that post switch to blue. Once you've done that, we're going to head back the way that we came. We can go up the stairs here. And we haven't been using our magic powder on that anti-fairy, although we've been low on health. And that's because if you jump off the side here, you'll actually go into one of these vases where you'll find the typical fairy fountain. Yeah, so we knew we were going to fill up our health anyway. And there's of course a warp tile there that will bring you back to this room. And up the stairs we'll be right back where we left off. So if you wondered why I kept walking by that anti-fairy when I had such low health and wasn't transforming him with the magic powder, that's why. We were very close to a fairy fountain right there. We're going to head back into this room where we found the key before. This time we just want to open the switch so that we can exit through the door at the bottom of the screen. Heading down this way will sort of take us in a big circle, and that's going to lead us back to where we need to be. We can use our magic cape in here as an easy way to avoid this fire bar. When you're coming back the other direction, you can use the hook shot pretty effectively, but it's kind of hard when you're going this way. So we're just going to cut through. Down here, you do want to lift that up so that you can grab another key, and then make your way up the stairs. Back here on basement 4, we're going to use that key that we just found in the door right here at the top. That will take you back into this room, and we've been on the other side of this room before. You may want to use your magic cape in here if you have some magic power available. And you'll definitely remember this room that we have to use the hook shot to get across. The reason why we're backtracking through all of these rooms is we need to get back to a certain place now that we flipped that one post switch that we found in the basement. So because the posts are now on the blue side, we're going to be able to push a block down to basement floor number 6, and we'll be able to use it to keep that one door open that leads to the boss. So once we get into this room, we're going to come back to this very obnoxious room with the fire rod in it. Carefully go across, doing your best to avoid the fire, and try your hardest to get down into the stairs. And when you're down in this room, we're going to plant a bomb on the left side. We could have done this the first time that we went through here, and we probably should have. That would allow us to pick up the treasure chest sooner, but we're going to grab it now. Inside we'll find the blue mail, and that is armor for Link, much like the blue ring in the original game. In this room we're going to push that block and then drop into the hole behind it, and now you'll see there's a block down in this room, and we can push it on top of the switch to open up the door. And that will lead us to this room. This room leads to the boss. Underneath that big block in the lower left, there's a hole, so we'll need to get down there, but before we do, you could lift up this block, but there's a bunch of Bari enemies hidden underneath it, so keep that in mind. If you want to try to lift up those skulls in the lower right corner, you'll need to deal with those guys first. Down here, we'll find an arrow and a bomb, so nothing too great, and then you'll want to pull this statue all the way up to here, walk down between it and the other statue, and pick up this block to reveal that hole, and then we'll drop down where we can face the boss, Cold Stare. To release the boss from its protective block of ice, you'll need to hit it 8 times with your fire rod. Once it's been released, each of the 3 eyes has 64 hit points, so it can be killed off pretty quickly with the fire rod, but you may find yourself short on magic power. If you run out of magic power, either use medicine to restore it and then continue using your fire rod, or try using charge attacks with your level 3 sword. The charge attacks still do great damage, so you should be able to finish off the remaining eyes no problem. Once the last eye has been defeated, we'll be able to get yet another heart container, and then we'll find another woman trapped inside of a crystal. Just as it always does, the crystal will float up into the air, and we'll get another message from the woman that's trapped inside. This one doesn't make as much sense as some of the other messages did. She describes the Hylia people, the people of Hyrule, as having mysterious powers, and then she says that the 7 wise men also had mysterious powers, which seems to suggest that they were not originally from Hyrule. So where did the 7 wise men come from? Are they Gerudo people? Did they come from the Golden Land? Somewhere else altogether? Well, it seems that only a short time remains before the worlds will be completely linked, and we certainly don't want that. So we need to move on and collect the last 2 crystals. Let's do this. You'll know that we're getting close to the end of the game because there's less and less to do in the overworld between dungeons. This time we're just going to use our magic mirror to warp back to the light world, and then we're going to use the flute to go to the area where the next dungeon lies. This time we're going to go to number 6, and that is the very special location that you cannot reach without the flute. Underneath this very heavy stone we'll find another Dark World warp tile, and this one takes us to Misery Mire. I'm glad to see that the programmers got a bit more mileage out of their very brilliant looking rain effect. Over here on the left side, we can enter this treasure cave. Watch out for those fireballs and head around the right side. Down at the bottom of the stairs, we'll find 2 chests. The one on the right is very easy to get. You can just push the 1 block to reach it. But after you collect it, if you push these other 3 blocks, you'll be able to find another piece of heart. That was the 21st piece of heart, meaning that there's only 3 left in the entire game. You may be surprised to find out then that one of the remaining 3 is actually over here on the right side. If we use our magic mirror, we'll be able to get to a location in the Desert of Mystery that we were unable to reach before. If we lift up this boulder, we'll go down into a secret passage, and then we just need to push a few more blocks. Not all of them can be pushed, so you want to push these particular ones, and that will get you to the 22nd piece of heart. If we were playing on the Japanese version, you can actually use your magic mirror to delete the blocks, but it's not that hard to move them in the proper way, and that will not work on the North American version. Up here inside of this cave, there's a fairy fountain. So if you've taken some damage and you need to refill, make sure to stop up here, because our next destination is going to be the dungeon. To be able to open up the dungeon, you can see that there's an etching of our ether medallion up here. So we need to go up and stand right on that spot and use our ether magic. Whenever we do so, the rain will stop and the dungeon will rise out of the swamp. There it is. Here we go. Right here at the beginning of the Misery Mire dungeon, it looks like you need the hookshot, and that's the easier way to get across this gap, but you can slam into the block on the left side using your Pegasus boots, and you'll bounce backwards over the gap. That's another way you can get across. Up here, we encounter Wizzrobes, everybody's favorite evil wizard from the original game. If we use our Bombos magic, we may be able to take them all out with 1 shot. Try to get right in the middle of where the Wizzrobes are congregating, and you'll find the Bombos magic is extremely effective against them. This large multi-tiered room will lead us to several locations here in the dungeon. Right now we want to just stay along the bottom and follow the path along so that we can get up to this tier and enter this door. Don't get beat up by the Popo, and also watch out for those torches which will actually be shooting projectiles at you. You'll find a key underneath the skull in the upper left corner of that room, which we can use to access this room, and we'll be able to take an elevated bridge across this area. Down below you'll see a treasure chest, and we'll need to come back there later, but for now we're going to stay up here on the upper tier, and we want to make our way to the left side of this room. That's where we're going to find a key. So watch out for those fireballs that patrol the area. Grab the key underneath the skull and make sure that you change the post switch to blue if you want to be able to collect the map. Once you've done all those things, head back through the door, and then we're going to go back the way that we came. So we can just dash through this room and head back through this one as well. And that's going to take us into this room that we needed a key to access before. And we're going to cut down through this room where we found the key. Because we switched the post switch to blue, we'll be able to get the map right here, but do not open the door to the left. We don't want to waste our key there. That'll just take us back to the main room that we've already been to, and we can absolutely access that area without using a key. We're just going to come back into this large chamber. You can see the key door on the right side. That's the one that we would have emerged from if we wasted our key in the room near the map. But we want to come down here to the lower left corner where we do need to use a key, and if we kill that Bari enemy, we'll find a key to open the door on the left. We can get some health back using our magic powder, and then we'll head through the door on the left. In this room, we need to light up all 4 lanterns, which you can do with your lamp, but it is a bit faster using the fire rod. You'll just consume more magic points per use. Up here, as long as the post switch is still on blue, you'll be able to grab the compass. And then we're going to head back through this door with the trap tiles and come down into this room. The bomb-belching slugs are called Sluggalas. You'll mostly want to avoid those. Grab the magic recovery in the upper right corner, and then take the stairs to the first floor that are right nearby. Up here we need to do a few block pushing puzzles. They're actually pretty easy to do. You just want to make sure that you can open the way to the lanterns. If you do mess up these block puzzles, you'll want to go back downstairs to reset them. They don't immediately reset when you leave the room. Now we can use our lantern. The lantern will save a little bit of magic points since it's kind of hard to hit these with the fire rod when you're not right on top of them anyway. And if you can get all 4 lit at the same time, it will suddenly trigger an earthquake. So what is this earthquake opening up anyways? Well, if we would go into the room to the right of this one, we'll see that a wall has been moved. We haven't actually been in that room yet, so you really won't know the difference when you walk in there, but when you head over into this room, you would not have been able to get into that pit down at the bottom before. It doesn't look like a safe pit to jump into because you can't see any tiles below, but trust me on this, that is absolutely where you want to go. It leads down here to this room, and now we have the big key. With the big key, we can head over here to the left where we'll jump into a teleporter tile, and it looks like we should go through the door at the top of this room, but instead, we want to head back over here to the right and then down, and then over to the right again. That's going to take us to the big room at the beginning of the dungeon, and there's a key in here that we haven't collected yet. So we want to walk up on top of this lattice, and underneath this skull there's a switch, and inside the chest we'll find that key that we were looking for. Now that we have it, we actually want to make our way back to the room where we found the map. It's a little bit of a walk from here, and we definitely do not want to use a key to get in there, so don't open the door on the right. We're going to take the long way around. So go right here, and then we're going to cut down through this room, and that'll take us to the one where the map was, but this time we're going to drop down here to the bottom, climb up these stairs at the bottom of the room, and take the door on the right side. We can use our hook shot here. That'll get us across very quickly, and then we can dash to get to the end of that breaking bridge as fast as possible. At the end, we'll find the big chest, and inside it is the Cane of Somaria. The Cane of Somaria is a mandatory item that does a number of different things. The primary function is it creates blocks, which you can use to depress switches, and you can even detonate those blocks to get a 4-way missile effect, and those missiles deal roughly 2 damage, the same amount of damage as your sword beam attack. so they're not very powerful, but they do go in 4 directions, which is nice. Make sure to grab the key at the end of that laddered section, and then we're going to come back down here. We'll push the block, head over to the right, and we're going to take the door at the top of the screen once again. This time we're going to drop down into the bottom. So we went over the top the previous time, but this time we want to go down here, and in this room we'll find a door that we need the big key to open. Well, good news is we already have the big key, so now we'll come over to the laddered bridge on the left side. Down here we are very close to the end of the dungeon. We just need to make our way through these rooms. If you have a key to spare because you didn't waste one in that door in the upper right corner near the map, you can head down here where there's a room full of treasure, so you can spend a key to get those rupees instead. If you don't have any extra keys, then you can skip it, because what we actually need to do is find this switch and use the Cane of Samaria to push a block on top of it, and that will allow us to go through the door. If nobody's standing on that block, the door will close, so you need to use the cane to get through there. In here, you don't have to actually pick up that big block in the middle, but you can use it as a weapon. Of course, we can get some health back here, so here's a great opportunity for that. Try to max out your health because the boss is coming up very soon. In here is another darkened room. Watch out for that moving spike trap. The blue mail that we found in the ice dungeon usually prevents damage to you from enemies and enemy attacks, but against that spike, you'll still take the same amount of damage you would without it. Make sure that that post switch is set to the red side so that you can get across the front of this room. And once you get in here, you need to use a bomb in the middle so that you can go up into this room. And inside, you'll find another post switch, which will allow you to get through the left side of this room. So that can be a tricky one to figure out because it's dark, and you may not notice the wall. In here, we just need to get through this room, but before we do that, don't forget to hit the post switch up at the top. You want to change it to the red side, and then go up the stairs. That stairway puts us out in the upper left corner of the large first basement, and you can tell by the design in front of the door that we're about to enter the boss's room. This boss's name is Vitreous, and we need to take out all of these small eyes before we can take out the large main one. If you have a decent supply of arrows, they deal 16 damage per hit, and you'll need to finish off 9 of the smaller eyes before you can fight the big one. There's 4 small eyes right below the big eye that you will not need to kill. If you don't have a lot of arrows, try charging up your sword and then go right up next to a cluster of small eyes, and maybe you'll be able to hit multiples of them. Once the big eye comes out, just line up a few shots with your arrows and rapidly fire. It won't take too many hits to finish it off, and we'll be able to grab another heart container and the next to last crystal. Just as it always does, the crystal floats up into the air, and we get another message from the woman inside. This time the message is more brief, and she tells us a lot of things that we probably could have figured out on our own. She tells us that Ganon needed the help from the women who were the descendants of the 7 wise men to be able to break the seal on the Golden Land. I mean, yeah, we kind of knew that. And then after the seal was broken, they were sucked into the dark world and imprisoned into crystals, which were then given out to Ganon's most loyal monsters. The last thing that she tells us, though, is important, and that's that we need to rescue Zelda from a place called Turtle Rock. So where is this Turtle Rock place anyhow? Well, you may be able to use process of elimination to figure out that it's in the last place that we really haven't explored yet. That's right, I'm talking about the northeastern corner of the map, the upper right side of Death Mountain. The developers really wanted us to go to the Turtle Rock dungeon last. Technically, you can do these Dark World dungeons in any order that you want to. As long as you go in and get the item from each dungeon, you don't have to fight the boss right away. So theoretically, we could actually have finished the Turtle Rock dungeon first, but you need a ton of equipment just to get in there. You need the Quake Medallion, you'll need the Titan's Mitt, and you'll need the hammer. And to be able to beat the Turtle Rock dungeon, you'll need both the fire and ice rods, as well as the Cane of Samaria. And you might as well add the Cane of Samaria to the list of items you need to get in, because you won't get very far past the front door without it. Before we go into the dungeon, the final two pieces of the last heart container are also located here in Death Mountain, and we'll want to grab number 23 before we go in. The last piece of the heart container, though, is practically inside the dungeon, although it is technically outside. You'll see what I mean when we get there, but first let's worry about getting piece number 23. We're going to head to the right past the Tower of Hera and head over to this bridge where you'll need to use your hammer to pound down some posts on the right side. Over here we're going to find a round plateau, and on top of it are 3 posts that you need to hit with a hammer. You'll need to hit them in a precise order, and if you do, it'll reveal a hidden warp tile that will take us to the Dark World, and it'll actually put us right on top of the dungeon. Down here, you'll see why we needed the Titan's Mitt. There's one of those large, heavy boulders blocking the way. And up here, you need to hit the post in the lower right, then the top, then the lower left. That will make the warp tile appear. And here we are, on top of the Turtle Rock dungeon, and standing in this position, if we use the Quake magic, we'll be able to reveal the entrance. But we're not going in there just yet. Remember, we gotta get that piece of the heart container. And to do that, we're going to jump down off of the top here and head back over to the left. Over in this area, there's a big rock that we can lift up, so you want to lift that. And underneath it, there's a hidden stairway. And if we go down inside there, we'll enter this strange cave. There are some invisible stones here that we can walk on, and we won't be able to see them unless we use our ether magic. You can probably figure out how to navigate these without using the ether magic, and it may just take a little bit of trial and error, but using the magic will make it easier. At the end of the cave, we can bomb the wall, and we'll be able to come into this room that has multiple areas that can be bombed. Up at the top, we'll find a fairy fountain, which we don't really need right now. But over here on the left side, this is what we were looking for. That exit is going to lead us outside, and that's where the piece of the heart container is. Before we head over there though, if you wanted to grab a loose fairy, maybe one to put in a bottle, you can find it in this room up here. And now we'll head outside and grab our prize. You may have noticed this heart container piece as we were exploring Death Mountain before, and wondered, how do you get over to get that one? Well, that's how. You just need to use your mirror from the Dark World on that particular area. Not very easy to figure out though. From here, we can go back the way that we came. It looks like you should be able to bomb the wall on the right side there, but you actually can't. There's nothing hidden back there. There are some rupees that you can find in treasure chests in this cave as well. There's more than one way to get the chests in this room, but it's really set up to be sort of like a hookshot puzzle. Use the hookshot to go over to this skull and you'll be able to grab this chest filled with 50 rupees, and then we can hook over to this one to grab another 50. Head on down here, carefully come over defeating the Bari enemy, and we can grab yet another chest filled with rupees. Using that Pegasus dash maneuver, we can bounce off of the chest to get back over here. I think that's the best way to do it. You can use that maneuver in a number of places in this room to also get around. From here, we can go down and get the last chest. And then we're just going to hook back up to that skull and shoot back over to the right. And that's all there is to that cave. Once you've finished plundering that place, it's time to actually go to the dungeon. So we're going to head back to the right, and we're just going to go right down to the turtle's mouth and walk into the stairway. Here at the beginning of the Turtle Rock dungeon, you'll see why we needed the Cane of Somaria. It actually has another purpose, and that's creating these strange platforms. Wherever you see that question mark, you can use the cane to create a platform. And once you're on it, you actually have some control over the platform. You can determine which direction it goes when it starts moving, and you can change its direction at those nodes. If you want to change direction at a node where you cannot get off of the platform, you probably want to rapidly tap that direction to change it. So if I wanted to go up there, I would rapidly tap up. If I want to stop here though, it's pretty easy, so you can just press down to get off. And we can wander down to this treasure chest, where we'll find the compass. Ah yeah, the good old compass. We see something new here though, an I-beam. You actually need to turn around backwards to get out of this room, and you want to hold your sword out so that you can stay facing downwards. So that's how you get out of there. And then we're going to head over onto this ledge to grab another heart because, yeah, those eye lasers really can't do a number on Link. We will find the mirrored shield in here, and that will help out with those. There are 4 lanterns in this room, so you can probably figure out what we need to do. We're going to use our Cane of Somaria to create a platform, and while we're riding it, we need to light up all 4 lanterns with our fire rod. But we need to also get to the door quickly before any of them burn out, so you want to keep that in mind as you're lighting them up. Try to light the first one as late as possible because that's the first one that's going to burn out. There's a big spike roller here that you can fairly easily avoid, although if you're worried about it, you can use your magic cape to get around it as well. With the magic cape on, you can just walk right through those things. We have the map now, and we also found a key, so we're going to need that key for sure, and here's the magic cape. You can see just right through the spike rollers. Down here you can also get a refill for your magic, so if we used a lot of magic shooting off your fire rod and your cane in those last few rooms, that's a good place to replenish it. Use the cane again, and we're going to push over to this platform where we can get off and use our key to enter this room. This enemy, called a Hokuboku, is easiest to defeat by using your charged sword attack. A lot of times you can kill all of the sections at once. It's holding the key that you need, and in this room, there's Chain Chomps, straight out of Super Mario Bros. 3. Chain Chomps actually become one of the common enemies between the Zelda and Mario series. It's pretty easy to navigate that room using your boomerang, and that brings us here into basement floor number 1. After seeing an enemy from the Super Mario Bros. Franchise in the previous room, now it's Link's turn to play plumber and jump into this ancient pipe. Any pipe that you go into will automatically take you to the other end of it. You do not have any control of where it goes. Each end of a pipe only has one other end. You'll want to take the first pipe here. That's going to put us on the path that will lead us to the big key, which is actually that chest in the middle of the room. In here there are 4 anti-fairies for your fairy creating pleasure. If you need some health, definitely a good time to stock up, and you're going to want to get those guys out of the way anyhow. Down here, there's another way to deal with this Hokuboku enemy, and that is the magic of Bombos. One shot of Bombos will incinerate them, and this one, just like the previous one, holds a key. Using that key, we'll be able to go through the door down here on the right, and that will put us into another pipe, which loops around to the big key. Now that we have the big key, we'll be able to open the big chest in this place, which contains the mirrored shield, which is probably the least exciting thing that we'll find in any of the big chests in the game, but it is the very best shield that you can get, so we do want it, and we're going to make our way there now. Follow this pipe back around. We've been in here before. This is going to take us back to this room where we went in the first pipe the previous time. This time we're going to go into the second pipe. That will take us down here. Down here, we can use our Bombos magic again to easily take out 2 Hokuboku enemies. These guys can be a real pain if you're fighting them just swinging your sword wildly. I don't recommend doing that. Bombos or charged attacks is the way to go. Head over here to the left where there's just a ton of those I-beam lasers. You want to avoid those. Place your bomb and then head over here to this right corner where they can't get you and then quickly get out of the door. This seems straightforward. We're just going to head over into this door on the right, but not so fast. If you use your magic mirror here, we will appear on this ledge in the light world that we were unable to reach before, and then we can go into this cave. There are some green Goria enemies in here, and you can use the blocks on the right side to kind of trap some of them for an easy shot with your arrows. And then you'll need to use the hammer to whack out those whack-a-moles. But all 4 Gorias must be defeated before the door will open. So there you go. Doors open, and inside, the 24th piece of heart, giving us a nearly full set of life. The last heart container is held by the boss here in the Turtle Rock Dungeon. It took a long time, but we found all of those heart container pieces. And now we can head back into the Turtle Rock Dungeon, where we can use our Cane of Samaria to make a platform, and we'll grab that mirror shield. Alright. Now that we have it, we can move on to this next room where we'll need to use the big key to open the door at the top. It's not too hard to avoid that trap, but if you need to, you can use your magic cape. Take this pipe up into this room, and in here we're going to use a bomb on the right wall. This is going to lead to an optional treasure room. If you actually just want to move on, the way to go is through the top of that room. But this is a very sneaky treasure room. There are a bunch of these little slime guys hidden in the floor, and you need to make them appear, and then you have to kill all of them to be able to push the block in the middle of the room. We can't push it just yet, so there must be another one. There he is. Now we can push this block, and this time you actually want to pull the tongue on the left side. It's the right side that's the trap. Pretty much every other time in this game, the right side is the safe side, but not there. That's the exception. We definitely do not need any more money. We have as much as we can hold, but I'm going to pick this up just to demonstrate how I would get it. There are so many traps in this room that it's easiest to just use your magic cape. So if you're interested in the money, that's probably the best way to get it. If you have no real need for cash, you're probably better off just skipping this one and saving your magic or health points. In here, we can use the bomb at the top of the room this time, which will put us on the good path. And I want to warn you not to throw anything at the Hokuboku enemies, because those pieces that fly off can actually damage you. Up here, we can use our boomerang to be able to grab this chest over on the left side. It's a key, and we'll need to use the boomerang again to get through the door. You can't really use your magic cape to avoid that trap while you're using the boomerang, so you'll just have to be careful. Up here, we'll use our Cane of Samaria, and this is a much more complex platform puzzle. If you're low on magic power because you went into that treasure room or just have otherwise been laying waste to enemies with magic, there's a full refill over here on the right side. Otherwise, we're trying to get to that small island with the skull on it. Underneath it, we're going to find a switch. Now this room is pretty dark, so you're probably thinking, what did that switch even open up? Well, it opened a door in the lower left corner, and that's where we need to go next, but we need to approach it from a node on the right side, that one. And that will take you down there, and we'll go through the door. You want to just quickly dash across this bridge to avoid the lasers, but make sure to stop yourself at the end. There's a locked door over on the left that we don't have a key for yet. And in this room, we'll find several treasure chests. Most of them are not worth your time. You can see how to use the mirror shield. You need to be facing the beam to block it, so you'll need to take a step away from the beam and then quickly turn back to block it, then step away again, turn back to block it, and then I like to use a dash move to get through this hard-shelled beetle at the end, but make sure to deal with him before you try to grab this last chest, which is the only one you really need to get. It contains a key. If you fall in after you get the key, that's not a big deal because it will conveniently take you back to the top of the room. Nice. We'll use our key over here and enter this room that has a number of post switches but is really not all that difficult to get through. So just make your way up the middle. The door is at the top of the middle of the room, and use your boomerang to hit the post switches whenever you need to go through them. It's really that simple. There's almost always a post switch conveniently located nearby. And there's the stairs that will take you down to the third basement. In here, there's a platform to ride, so use your Cane of Samaria. But whenever we get to the end, it's going to be time to fight the boss, Trinexx. Don't forget to get that magic refill before you go in here, because you're going to need a lot of magic to fight this guy. This boss has 3 heads, but you won't be able to damage the central head until you defeat the red and the blue one on the sides. To kill the red head, you'll need to use the ice rod to stun it, and then you'll be able to damage it with your sword. You can hit it again with the ice rod, but it'll only deal 4 damage, while your sword will deal 8 damage with a slashing attack, and 16 if you can manage to charge it, although the stun doesn't last forever, so the slashing attack is probably the way to go. Once both heads have been destroyed, the central part of Trinexx will be revealed. It almost looks like you beat the boss, but don't be fooled. You'll want to hit the head with a charged attack, but after that it will light up one of the central parts of the body that you need to hit, and that can be tricky, so I like to switch over to the Cane of Bryna for that part, which will make you invincible, and then you can very aggressively attack the last piece of the boss. And there it is, the final heart container, and the last of the 7 crystals. Inside this one is our good friend, Princess Zelda. Zelda is gonna owe us big time when this thing is over. That's the 2nd time we rescued her just in this game. And it's what, the 5th time now in the series overall? Yeah. She confirms that we're the legendary hero, although she has felt this ever since we first met. It was probably because you were able to contact us through telepathy. I think that was only working on people with the Hylian hero bloodline, or at least that's how I was understanding it before. Yeah, good intuition there, Zelda. In any case, we must defeat Ganon here in the Dark World, because if he escapes into the Light World, he'll be unstoppable. So that is our next challenge. We need to go to Ganon's tower and break the seal. Before we head over there though, it may look like we have every item in our inventory, but no, we're actually missing a couple things, and they are very good things. How about the level 4 sword perhaps? The best sword in the game? Yeah, we might want to get that. And oh, how about the silver arrows? Those may actually be something that are critical for defeating Ganon, so we should definitely pick them up as well. We can use this Dark World warp tile in the Great Swamp, which will take us to the area right near Link's house. You may remember that we visited a bomb shop that was in the Dark World version of Link's house. The last time we were here, the Smoking Green Elephant Man only had regular bombs for sale, but now he has something new. This is the Super Bomb. The Super Bomb will follow you around sort of like that treasure chest that we found before that had the bottle inside. You don't want to jump off any big ledges while the Super Bomb is following you, and whenever we get it into position, we're going to press the A button, which will trigger a countdown, and then it will detonate. If you notice that you've become separated from the Super Bomb and the countdown begins, you'll want to hurry up and reconvene with it so that you can get it moved to the right location. We're going to head up here. The path to the Pyramid of Power is over on the left. and we're going to take it right up the stairs and to a crack on the left side. You may have seen this crack before. You can't destroy it with normal bombs, but the super bomb will do a number on this wall. And once the countdown ends, you'll see the detonation and the cave will be opened. This place is just like the Waterfall of Wishing in the Light World, except this time the fairy that will help you out is a little bit chunkier. Well, the heavier the fairy, the more power she has, and she will be able to give you the silver arrows if you throw the bow into the water. She says that Ganon has transformed her into this shape, and she would be very happy if we could destroy him. So now we have the very awesome silver arrows, which often deal 100 damage to enemies that they hit. Pretty good. But that's not the only thing we can get here. If you throw your level 3 sword into the water, it will come out as the Golden Sword, the best sword in the game. The Golden Sword does awesome damage just by swinging it, and although you can charge it up, it almost never deals more damage, unless you're fighting the Hinox enemies, which are those Cyclops guys that throw bombs at you. Those guys will take a little bit more damage from the charge spin attack, but pretty much everything else will take the same as if you slash them. So if you need to fend off a group of enemies, the charge spin could still be useful, but it's really not as good as just beating things up with the slashing attack. Well, now that we have the silver arrow and the golden sword, it's time to make our way up Death Mountain to Ganon's Tower. Ganon's Tower occupies the same space in the Dark World as the Tower of Hera in the Light World, so you probably have a good idea how to get up there. You will need to use the Dark World entrance that we took to get to the Turtle Rock dungeon to be able to reach Ganon's Tower, but I mean, that's not so difficult to figure out. As usual, we'll come back up here. We're going to climb the long ladder. And once we get to the top, we're going to head over to the right and use the Dark World access underneath the rock, the very first Dark World access that we ever took in this game. Once we head through there, we'll take the all-familiar path back over onto where Spectacle Rock should be, and use our magic mirror there once more. We are very close to the end of the game now. These are the final moments. As we leap off, we can look at the Tower of Hera once more. Nothing really going on in there anymore. And we're going to head over here to the right side, where we'll need to use our hammer to pound down some posts, and then we'll use the Titan's Mitt to lift up a rock, and we should be right back into the Dark World. Ganon's Tower may be the final dungeon in this game, and it's certainly the largest, but I wouldn't say it's the most difficult. With the amount of power we have now with the golden sword and a full set of heart containers, it's actually going to be a lot easier than you may think. We'll head up here through the warp tile, and then we're just going to make our way over to the left, right back where the Tower of Hera would be in the Light World. Over here we'll encounter some Lionel enemies, which are a famous Death Mountain enemy from the original game. They look pretty cool here on the Super Nintendo. They're dangerous, so I don't recommend tangling with them too much. Just head over to the left and make your way to the tower. Once you get to the front of the tower, the crystals will automatically open it up. They're going to break the barrier on Ganon's Tower. And after a few flashes, a stairway will emerge from the center. It's time for us to go in. We enter Ganon's Tower on the second floor, and this is not a very large floor, which doesn't make a ton of sense for the structural integrity of a tall tower. But in any case, you want to take the stairs on the left side, which will bring us down to the much larger first floor, where we can collect an easy key by dashing into a post, but don't use it in the door on the right, Instead, head over to the left where we can find a second key underneath a skull, and after playing a bit of whack-a-mole with our hammer, we'll be able to push a block which reveals a switch that can open the door. In this room, we can use our hook shot to get across, and you can actually just shoot it right at the corner of some of these blocks, which will make it even easier to get by. Whenever you come across here, if you want to get the map, it's in the door on the right side, but you will need to spend a key to get it. We'll have enough keys to get by, so if you want to have the map, feel free to pick it up. You may want to use your cape to make it easier to grab the chest between those fire rods, and once you have the map, you can hurry back out the way that we came, although there is a heart down here in the lower left. With the map, we can take a look at it and see that there are 8 floors here, and while we don't have the compass yet, you won't be surprised to learn that the boss is waiting at the very top. Now that we're in this room again, we need to deal with this post switch. We want it to be in the red position, but we also want to walk by it so we can use our bomb as a time delay mechanism. Make sure it explodes before you get in here, and you'll see that the brown pillars will be pushed in, and we can use a bomb for the same purpose to get down to this side. There's a key that you can find under the skull in the lower right, don't forget to grab it. And in this room, we can use our hook shot to hit the post switch, and if you're standing right on the blue post, you'll be safe whenever that spike trap comes your way. In this room, you can just try to avoid these fire rods, although you could actually just use the hook shot to shoot right through them. The chest contains a key, and we're going to use it in this door, and then we'll take the warp tile on the right, come down here and take the warp tile on the left, and then in this room, we'll take the warp tile in the lower left corner. That will bring you down here, and then you can just kind of charge your way to the end of this room, and you'll go through a warp tile up above, which will take you into this small room. If you pick that up, you can grab some arrows, but you just want to go through the warp tile on the other side, and then we'll be done with all of this warp tile nonsense. It's not as difficult of a maze as it may appear. It may seem like those hard-shelled beetles are walking on thin air, but there's actually an invisible path there that we can walk on too. If you can light that torch over in the upper right corner, you'll be able to see it, but for now, we can use our ether magic, which will reveal the path temporarily, and it'll freeze those hard-shelled beetles, which we can take out with our hammer, to hopefully get some refills on our magic points, and then we'll be able to use the ether magic again. Using the ether magic, you'll be able to see the path. If you're low on your magic supply, you may want to try a different strategy. You can use your Cane of Samaria to make a block, and then you can kind of push that block around, and if you notice that it falls off of an edge, well then you know not to go over there. That may be a slightly more efficient way to use your magic, but considering the interaction between ether and the hammer, we shouldn't have too many problems keeping our MP high. Over here you can see what happens if we use the lamp on this lantern. Suddenly the path is revealed, but we don't need to go back that way right now. We want to come up into this room. You may suspect that we came to this room to collect that treasure chest, but no, that chest just contains a few arrows. What we actually want to do here is plant a bomb on the broken area in the lower right corner. That's going to open up a hole for us to jump into, and when we leap down inside, it takes us to our first mini-boss encounter. It's time for a rematch with the Armos Knights, but this time we have to deal with an icy floor. Luckily, we have the silver arrows now, and the silver arrows will kill each Armos Knight in a single shot. Yeah, these guys are just way too easy now. Once they're defeated, you can go through the door at the top, and inside we'll find the big key. Yeah, we've been looking for that. If you need some bombs, there's some over on the right side, and on the left you can find a few more arrows to replenish the supply that we spent when we were fighting that boss. And once we've done all that, head over here to the left. You can dash against this wall to open up a hidden passage. And up here we can find a nice supply of loose fairies, so if you need to catch one in a bottle or just refill your health, that's a great place to go. Once you're done in that fairy fountain, you want to come up these stairs, and there is a big chest in this dungeon. Just like in the original Legend of Zelda, the final dungeon contains the best armor. This one is the red mail, and it usually prevents about 75% of damage, although it doesn't work super consistently. Even if the red mail may not help you against some things like spike traps, you'll be very happy to have it whenever we're fighting Ganon. Here on the first floor, but accessed from the right side of the second floor, we can find some more supplies, but what we're actually looking for is this switch in the lower left corner that we'll need to use Arcane of Samaria to keep pushed down. Do not use your key in the door on the left side, because we're going to need to use that key right here in this room instead. Quickly make your way to the right and use your key. And in this room, we'll be able to fight some Gibdos, and we know that Gibdos are very vulnerable to the Ice Rod, and once they're frozen, we can use our hammer to refill our magic power. We probably don't need to do that though, because there's a full magic refill right here. You do need to be very careful of the wall masters that keep dropping in this area, but the main thing you want to do here is try to clear out all the enemies and make sure that you're going to be able to maneuver around, because we want to light up all 4 of these lanterns, and all 4 of them need to be lit while the door is open for us to pass through. So there's some conveyor belts that kind of make this complicated, but you should have enough time to keep the door at the bottom open, and down here we're going to use bombs to hit that post switch. Those Gibdos can't really get you while the posts are up though, so we might as well finish them off before we start dealing with this switch. You'll want to use a bomb, pick it up and toss it onto the conveyor belt, and it should carry it far enough that it'll hit the post switch. Then you'll need to do it again and step behind the blue posts so that you can get over here to the left side of the room. You'll be able to grab another bomb there, and in here, you want to collect 3 of the chests before you collect the one in the upper left. That one contains the compass, but as soon as you get it, it opens up a bunch of holes in the floor, so it'll be a lot easier if you collect it last. Once you have the compass, you can use the magic mirror to return to the entrance of Ganon's tower, because now we want to take the stairs in the middle, which will take us up to the 3rd floor. If you don't actually care about collecting the compass, you can skip that last little bit that we did. And in this room, we're going to use our boomerang to hit some post switches, but we need to deal with some of those Goria enemies that respond to our movements. Remember that you'll be able to manipulate them in the way that you move, but they can't walk through obstacles. We have the mirrored shield now, which actually gives us the opportunity to defend the fireballs that they shoot. So you just want to make your way over to the far left side. You'll be able to push a block and that will open the door, but make sure that you have the post switch in the blue position before you come down here. There's some red Gorias and some traps in this room. Use your arrows to take out the red Gorias, and the door will open on the right side. Once you're in here, there's more Gorias to deal with, as well as some Beamos this time. Those Beamos definitely make it a little bit more difficult, so you'll want to try to take out those Gorias as fast as you can, even if you have to be a little bit aggressive about it. In here, you just want to head through that big key door, and if the posts were in the blue position, you'll only have to deal with 2 of those spike traps here, and you can see that whenever you change the post to the red position, there's a whole bunch more that you have to deal with. So it's a little bit easier if you came in here with it set to the blue. That switch at the top opens the door to this room. Try not to get knocked off the edge. Just find a space between the cannonballs and walk through. And if you do a dash at those blocks, you can go backwards and you'll be able to use a bomb on this wall, and inside we'll be able to find some more fairies. If you need some more supplies, there's also some good stuff hidden underneath those skulls, including a full magic recovery item. So once you have all that, use your hook shot to get across, and take the stairs up to the 4th floor. Up here on floor 4, we're going to face a lot of rooms where we just need to clear the enemies to move forward. We'll be very happy that we found that full magic refill, because our ether magic is going to make this so easy. And it'll also keep our magic refilled. In here, we can use our Bombos magic. Bombos is a little bit better whenever you're fighting these Softos monsters. I like the Incinerate quality. It'll often yield some good power-ups whenever they drop things. So we got some of our magic back, and now we're going to head through the door at the bottom, although you can collect some supplies under the skulls if you feel like dealing with that Beamos. And in here, there's some more of those blue Dairas, so we know that the ether is very good against them. Our hammer will shatter them into pieces, and once all three are gone, we'll be able to open the door to the next room. Hopefully we'll get some of our magic back. Yep, as usual, the ether was essentially free. Try to avoid these Beamos lasers, and make your way into this room that has some conveyor belts and ice this time. None of it really matters. We're just going to ether these guys and smash them to bits. Quickly head through, smash the enemies, and get to the door at the bottom. You can see why it's pretty helpful to have this red mail. We've been taking a bunch of incidental damage from enemies and lasers and things, but we really haven't taken all that much damage considering how many times we've been hit. In here you can actually just dash right through that enemy, and now it's time for another rematch. These are the Lanmolas. You may remember that they were vulnerable to arrows before, but they are super vulnerable to the silver arrows, which can finish off each Lanmola in a single shot. You can truly feel how much more powerful Link is now than he was back when he was collecting the pendants so long ago. In this room, there's some different types of Wizzrobes. We'll want to use our ether magic anyway so that we can see the hidden path on the ground, but it does double duty and actually kills the Wizzrobes as well. Nice. In here, there's some of those eye lasers. If you just kind of dash over, you should be able to get past them, but don't dash off the far right edge. Make sure to get right in the middle of these guys if you're going to use the ether magic to take them out. You can easily get them all in one shot, and they even dropped a few hearts for us, which is nice. In here, I like to take the conveyor belt on the right side and just dash straight up. That should get you by those Tauros enemies. And it's not too hard to figure out what you need to do here. We need to light all 4 lanterns, just as we've done so many times before. Before you attempt it though, I recommend going in there and grabbing all of those skulls so that you don't have to deal with them once you're actually lighting the lamps. Use your fire rod, hit those 3, and then we can catch this last one as we walk by it. And that will open the door. Make sure to hurry on through before it closes. Before you head upstairs, make sure to grab the skull in the upper right corner that hides a full magic refill. You're going to need to use your fire rod again up here, but this time the floor will start breaking out, so I like to start with the lantern in the lower right corner and then continue around clockwise to avoid the floor. If you fall in, you'll have to climb up and start over again, so try to avoid it, and then when you get to this room, you'll need to kill those small Helmasaurs to be able to get a key. There's some more supplies in the treasure chests if you need them, but it's just some more bombs, which we actually have quite a good supply of right now. Well, you can see why they wanted to give you some bombs now. From this position, throw a bomb, and it should slide over on the conveyors just to the right spot where it'll blow up the wall. Try to get that big spike moving, and then as it's retracting, head on through the door. In this room, there's some more anti-fairies, but they're trapped between those blue posts, so they're very easy to hit with our magic powder. That's a good way to get some more health, and down here in the lower right, you can get some more magic refilled. And in the middle, don't miss the key. You're going to need it anyway to be able to get through the door at the bottom. We are very close to the top now, and there's one more pendant boss that we haven't rematched with yet, and that's the Moldorm. This time you'll need to hit it in the back with 2 strikes of your golden sword, and that's all it takes. Wow, that was tough, huh? Once he's defeated, a treasure chest will appear on the other side that we can reach with our hookshot, so just hookshot on over. It just contains money, which we don't particularly need right now, but if we slide some blocks, we'll be able to head over into the next room, which contains even more traps, and is probably a great place to use our magic cape. You'll just be able to go right through everything. I like to just do a little dash and make it up to the door. And this is it, the top of the tower. Are you ready for the rematch with Aghanim? That's right, it's not exactly Ganon here. It's another chance to fight Aghanim. He says that we won't have a third meeting, and he's right, because after this, he will be dead. This time there's 3 copies of the boss, and you need to reflect the energy balls back at the solid one. If you hit it into the somewhat transparent versions of the boss, that won't deal any damage. There may be 2 more bosses fighting you this time, but you still only need to connect with 6 energy balls, and with multiple energy balls coming at you all the time, that may even give you more opportunities to hit the boss. I'm not saying that makes it easier, but it certainly doesn't make it much harder, especially considering that we are way more powerful this time. Just like the last time, you can still use the bug net, and you can actually use the hammer this time, but I do find this battle to be a little bit easier to manage with the sword. And once you get the 6th hit, it's revealed that Ganon was possessing Aghanim the entire time. He turns into a blue bat, and he flies off to the Pyramid of Power. After we play our flute, the duck appears and allows us to give chase. Wait a minute, how did the duck get to the Dark World? We've never been able to summon the duck in the Dark World before. That would have been really convenient a lot of times. Instead of just having to mirror back to the Light World every time and use those locations, yeah, it would have been awesome if we could have summoned the duck down here. Well, there may be a bit of a continuity error there, but if you need to refill your health, slam into this tree down below, and if you need to get some more potions, you may want to stop at the potion shop, because whenever you drop into the hole on the top of the pyramid, it's going to be time to fight the final boss. In any case, make sure that you have a decent supply of health and magic, and also at least 4 or 5 arrows. You'll probably want to have more than that just in case you miss. Whenever you get down here, you want to try to get a quick hit on Ganon as soon as you can. That first one does count, and then he'll decide to talk to you for a little while. Yeah, shut up, Ganon. Nobody cares what you have to say. All we need to do here in Phase 1 is hit him at least 13 times with our golden sword. Don't worry about charging it up, and if he does this attack where he starts to make fiery bats appear in a circle, you can use your magic cape and then get very aggressive with him, and this will allow you to get a lot of hits. You'll know that he's gone into Phase 2 whenever he puts his arms out and looks like he's flexing his muscles. You'll need to hit him again there so that he'll jump into the air and smash the ground. If you don't hit him, he'll just shoot a fiery bat out and he won't do the jump. You need him to do 4 jumps, which will create a pit on the edge of the stage. If you fall into that pit, you'll have to start the battle over, so be very careful to stay out of there. When you see this message, it's time for Ganon's final form. You need to keep the torches lit, so use your fire rod or your lantern for that. The fire rod's a little bit faster, so I typically use it, and when both torches are lit, you'll be able to hit him with your sword. When you do so, he'll turn blue and freeze for just a moment. You need to quickly switch over to your silver arrows and hit him with an arrow while he's still blue. If the torches burn out, you'll need to light them again, and you'll need to get him with 4 silver arrows while he's stunned and blue to be able to finish him off. Right now we only need to do 1 more. Ganon is invulnerable while the torches are not lit, and with that, he's defeated. Ganon will blow up, and the door will open, leading to the Triforce. We've done it. We've beaten The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. But before we enjoy the cheesy ending, I did mention at the beginning of the video that there's a way to beat the game in about 3 minutes. You can start a new game, naming your character anything you want, but you do need to start from scratch to make this trick work. And once your uncle is done talking to you and says he's going to leave for the castle, well, then it's time to just begin the game as you normally would. You want to work your way over to the normal hidden entrance, and we'll go down there and get the sword and the shield just like we always do. So far, everything is pretty straightforward. You're just going to do the normal stuff. And this is actually a very easy glitch to do as far as glitches are concerned. There's a few ways you can mess it up, but as long as you follow these instructions, you should be able to make this one work. Once you have the sword, you're going to head out here, and you want to make it into the main room in the castle. So you'll come outside into the castle courtyard, and you want to walk over to the left. It doesn't matter too much if you get hit here, as long as you don't die. Just make your way into this door, and you want to head up onto the upper tier, and you're going to jump off, and while you're in midair, you need to press the select button and choose save and quit. So jump, select, save and quit. And that's going to bring you back here to the title screen. Alright, if you're still following so far, the next part is the most difficult part of the trick, but it's not actually that difficult. It just involves you getting through a very small section without taking any hits. And this is the very beginning of the game, so it shouldn't be too hard to do this. So make your way up here. If you do get hit, you should just start over from scratch. That will make it a lot easier to do. I'm going to try to get those soldiers to move out of the way and then just run up through them. These are probably the most difficult ones to avoid, but you can see it's not that hard. Once you've done that, carefully get past these soldiers, and you want to get up onto the top tier and head through the door on the left. That will bring you into this room. Now there's another guard here, watch out for him, and walk straight over to the wall, and then tap on the wall so that you summon the guard, and then just start holding left. Whenever the guard hits you, he should push you into the wall. Then you want to walk up into this room, walk all the way up until you get to this room, now stop, and walk over to the right, but don't go into the next room. You can kind of see Link's head at the bottom. You just want to go to the right side of this room, and then you just need to start holding up. And you're going to walk past all kinds of other rooms. If you did go too far right in the previous room, you may soft lock the game and you'll have to reset. But as long as you get to this part, you can just keep walking up and you'll walk past many other rooms in the game, including the one that contains Ganon, and even second Ganon. I'm not sure why there's two of them. But once you get to here, you will suddenly enter the Triforce room and be able to watch the ending of the game. It's really that easy. Now, I did cut back to the normal run so that we can see it with all of our normal equipment, including the red mail and that kind of thing. But the ending doesn't really change regardless of whether or not you get there in the normal way or by using that glitch. And with that, we can now sit back, relax, and enjoy the cheesy ending. Much like in Dragon Ball Z, the Triforce will grant the bearer one important wish. The wishes do have some limitations, but when we make our wish, we're basically going to do a Control-Z and undo all the bad stuff that Ganon did. Seems like a pretty good start. The Triforce speaks to Link, and I'm not sure if it's speaking in an audible way, or maybe it's talking to him through telepathy. A lot of the characters in this game have demonstrated that telepathy is totally possible in this world. The Triforce will flesh out some of the last loopholes in the plot, and tells us a bit about how Ganon wanted to use the power of the Triforce to conquer the Light World, but as an artifact of the Golden Land, the Triforce's power was limited to reshaping that world. Still, it was a very good power, and Ganon used it to become very, very powerful, although it never really explains how he was able to get through the seal to send Aghanim to the world of light to kind of start messing things up. Once Link touched the Triforce, all of that evil magic began to fade, and suddenly, the king had returned to the castle in Hyrule. He had been murdered before the game even began. Our friend the priest, who is called the Loyal Sage here in the North American version, a change from the Japanese version to kind of get rid of some of the religious overtones, but it's nice to see that that guy's still alive. Our friend the village elder is back, and it also seems that the quarreling brothers are getting along again. Was Ganon responsible for their argument? Vultures now rule the desert. I'm not sure if that's something that we specifically wished for, but it's nice to see our friend the thief is up to his old tricks, unlocking treasure chests. With all the locked doors in The Legend of Zelda, I think a locksmithing business could be a good start for that guy. Here we can see the true form of the bully and his friend from Death Mountain. And over here, we see that our uncle is back to life. Do you think maybe we can use the Triforce to wish for a second bed? Maybe a little bit bigger house? Possibly? I assume that because we undid everything that happened, that Zora no longer sold us the flippers. So I guess not everything turned out good for all the characters in the game. And down here we see the witch and her assistant, just kinda hanging out. It doesn't seem like what happened with Ganon and Aghanim really affected these guys too much. The lumberjacks are back to their old sawing again, this time cutting down a different tree. Do you think they'll ever actually get through this one? They needed our help to take down the previous tree. In the Japanese version, Flute Boy is called Ocarina Boy, but whatever you call him, it's nice to see that he's been reunited with his estranged father, and that he's not a tree anymore. Up here in this fairy fountain, we can see the true form of Venus, the Queen of Fairies, who has lost quite a bit of weight, and the dwarven swordsmiths are toiling away, but they do take a moment to face the camera and bow. In this second Kakariko village scene, we'll see some of the other characters that we didn't see in the first one with the quarreling brothers, including the scarecrow guy that can run really fast, and the fairy in disguise as an old woman who can't help but sweep the grass. It also seems that the bug-catching kid not only recovered, but has made friends with the good bee. The old man from Death Mountain is wandering around alone. You'd think that he'd be with his daughter, who is one of the 7 women captured by Aghanim, although she appeared in the previous scene with the king, but it would be nice to see her with her dad. And then we see one more character, the forest thief from the Lost Woods, who was never very important. But he is right next to where the Master Sword will sleep again. Forever. Yeah, right, forever. The Master Sword will get many a more workout in the world of The Legend of Zelda. This definitely will not be the last time it's pulled from that stone. And from here, it's time to roll the credits. This faux 3D effect that they got on the Triforce pieces was actually very impressive for the early 90s. You just didn't see a lot of 3D effects in any video games, let alone ones that were this detailed. It may not look very impressive by modern standards, but as soon as you fire up this game in your Super Nintendo and see those spinning Triforce pieces, you know that you're in for something special. As the credits slowly scroll by, and we bear witness to the names of the many people that made this spectacular game possible, I sit back and wonder, did they know? Did they know they were making a true classic that would be enjoyed by millions and still holds up over 30 years later? These are the kind of questions that we'll probably never get real answers to. But I've always felt like that as the developers put the finishing touches on A Link to the Past, they had to know in their gut that what they made was a masterpiece. Honestly, one of this game's greatest achievements is how it toes the line perfectly between being challenging but not overly frustrating. I can't imagine how much testing it must have taken to create puzzles that are satisfying to solve and make you feel really smart, but are not so hard that you'll want to quit. And that's really one of the hallmarks of the Zelda series: carefully crafted puzzles. The development team created a lot of great tools for Link in this game, ones that would be used in many, many other Zelda games to follow. Especially ones like the hook shot and the shovel, which are extremely prominent in Link's Awakening for the Game Boy. The Game Boy may be technically inferior to the Super Nintendo in pretty much every way, but it's pretty amazing what they were able to cram into that game, built on the foundation that was established here in A Link to the Past. And Link's Awakening is definitely a game that I plan on covering in the future. And at the very end of the credits, we see this quest history, and you can see how many times you died or used the save and quit option. And you can see that we did it twice in Desert Palace. It just kind of remembers the last palace that you did. It doesn't mean that we died or saved while we were in there. We were actually doing that Chris Houlihan room, or just using the save and quit to get around in the game a little bit faster. But if you want to end with all zeros, you need to make sure that you never use save and quit whenever you're playing the game, and do your best not to die. Well, I hope this video was able to help you finally beat The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past and stop Ganon's hostile takeover of Hyrule. If it did, make sure to give it a like and make sure to subscribe for more videos, because there will always be more evil sorcerers banishing women to dark dimensions, and that's why we'll be back again next week with another video game you can beat. Thanks for watching.